Chapter 1600. Apart from the three treasures that could be integrated into the eternal divine furnace unit, as well as the treasures that could enhance the various treasures of the divine furnace unit, there were also treasures that could be integrated into the Tower Ruins unit. Yes, the Tower Ruins unit had increased quite a bit due to the integration of the Lotus of Bliss, but the interior had not been modified much. It wasn't that Feng Qingshan was unwilling, but that he didn't want to deal with it casually. Although the Tower Ruins unit wasn't as important as the Eternal Divine Furnace unit and didn't require perfection, he couldn't lower the standard too much either. This time, he had encountered a few excellent and unique treasures. If he fused them into the Tower unit, it would add a lot of splendor to it. In addition, there was refined crystal, ink gold, soul stone, skin of chaos, and void beast spine. Among them, refined crystal was a type of crystal that was refined from countless treasures. It had only one effect, and that was to reinforce treasures. Although the timeless arc had been tempered by a top-notch material like vow and a top-notch spiritual root like the Lotus of Bliss, it didn't need this. However, the soul-chasing arrow in the deck weapons unit, the arrow tower, the ballista, the arrows, and the bolts in the deadly crossbow could be used. Fusing with it would greatly increase their lethality and endurance. As for the ink gold, it was as black as ink and flashed with a faint golden light. Its function was the same as refined crystal, except that one was for reinforcement, while the other was for tempering. Ink gold was like a whetstone that could greatly increase the sharpness of arrows and bolts. As for the soul stone, it was even simpler. From the words, it could be seen that this treasure was a soul-type treasure. However, it wasn't used to enhance the Death Scythe, but the soul-shaking bell unit. The skin of chaos was even more famous as a treasure of heaven and earth. It was also called the membrane of heaven and earth. Speaking of this, the first thing that came to mind was the Book of the Underworld in Zhen Yuanzi's hands. This item indeed came from the same source as the Book of the Underworld. However, the Book of the Earth was only formed from the embryonic membrane of the world during the primordial times, while the skin of chaos was formed from the shattered chaos when the chaos was formed. It was branded with the marks of the Tao of chaos, and it was the toughest membrane in the world. Feng Qingshan had obtained this item before. It was still used for the same purpose, to refine sails. The spine of a void beast was naturally the best material to refine a mast. In addition to these materials, Feng Qingshan also obtained a few good treasures for developing sail units. One of them was called the Bloodthirsty Demon Cave. It was unknown whether this demon cave was a treasure refined by a large demon sect or a demon lord. It could be used to imprison enemies, or it could even be a training ground for their sect. It was filled with a bloodthirsty aura, and anyone who entered it would engage in a frenzied slaughter. The killing intent, bloodthirst, and madness that would erupt would be enhanced by treasures. After a person died, the will of death, blood, and corpses would fuse with treasures, forming something similar to zombies and spirits of the dead. They would attack and kill any living creature they saw without any regard for the consequences. There was also a treasure called the Abyss Ruins. Heaven and earth had the ultimate. It was a place that carried all the negative elements of heaven and earth, and even the destruction of heaven and earth. The ultimate in desolation was actually the Blood Sea. That was why there was a saying that the Blood Sea would never dry up and the Styx River would never die. It was not because of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Desolation had the ultimate, and the myriad worlds were no exception. This place was called the Abyss Ruins. Of course, this treasure naturally could not be the real Abyss Ruins. It was just a treasure refined by someone that could lead to the Abyss Ruins. It was an entrance to the Abyss Ruins. This was a very good training ground. After all, the more dangerous the place, the more benefits there would be. Looking at the Blood Sea of Desolation, 1 or 2 supreme treasures could be nurtured. It was good enough for others to have 1 or 2 accompanying spiritual treasures, but Mosquito Dowrin and the Styx River had twice as many as they did. Moreover, going there, not only could one train and search for treasures, but they could also better understand reincarnation. By integrating these treasures into the sail units, a few new sail worlds could be opened. With these sail units, not only could they seize a few Tao soldier teams and training grounds, but they could also control the speed of the timeless arc and better control the direction. It's time to advance. Fang Qingshan looked down at the precious treasures in his hand and thought back to all the hard work he had put into preparing for his next breakthrough. In the end, he had almost suffered a crushing defeat in the Fallen Dragon Pocket Dimension. Then he thought about his breakthrough in Cultivation Base, his breakthrough in the Eternal Heavenly Battleship, and how he was one step closer to the boundless void and the Great Pyramid of heavens and myriad worlds. God Emperor, immortal rank heavenly vessel. Not so long ago, these things were so far away from him, but now they were within his reach. Moreover, the further one advanced, the slower one's cultivation would be, or even stagnant. But Fang Qingshan was completely different. From the origin realm to the immortal realm, he only needed to go through one thunder tribulation, and he directly crossed a big realm. Fortunately, he did not directly advance to the God Emperor. Now that he had broken through to the God Emperor realm, although he might not be able to directly break through to the late God Emperor realm like the immortal realm, it should not be a big problem for him to reach the early God Emperor realm or the middle God Emperor realm. The Timeless Arc's advancement was even faster. There were 3 supreme treasures in the Tao Will Sect's secret vault, 2 supreme treasures from the Void Stone, and the Dragon Skeleton Timeless Arkansas. The resources for the Timeless Arc to break through to the immortal realm were basically all gathered. And once the Timeless Arc broke through to the immortal realm, with Fang Qingshan's cultivation, even if he could not break through to the Venerable Emperor realm, he would definitely reach the peak of the God Emperor realm. In such a situation, no one would be able to suppress their excitement. Go! With a wave of his hand, Fang Qingshan first threw all kinds of heaven and earth treasures toward the arranged places. The empty crystal was integrated into the Nirvana Bridge. The life and death jade was integrated into the life and death gourd. The refined crystal and the black gold was integrated into the soul-chasing arrows and the deadly crossbow. The void beast's spine rose up like bamboo shoots after a rain and turned into masts. The chaotic skin was put on top of them and turned into sails, fluttering in the wind, of course. These were actually secondary. The most important thing was to open up the sail world and integrate the new Eternal Divine Furnace Unit. And the idea of opening up the sail world was obviously not as important as integrating the Eternal Divine Furnace Unit. Therefore, what Fang Qingshan had to do next was naturally to open up the new sail unit. With a wave of his hand, Fang Qingshan threw the bloodthirsty devil's lair, the abyssal ruins, and all these secret treasures directly into the new sail. Boom! When these secret treasures fell into the sail, they suddenly burst forth with unparalleled power, like dry wood meeting a raging fire, or like Mars crashing into Earth. Rumble! The sound of the beginning of heaven and earth was endless like the smoke of a battlefield. The originally calm space of the sail began to tumble violently at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the power of the world was tumbling violently. A huge crack was expanding in all directions at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 1601. Heaven and earth were divided into Grotto Heaven, Minor Kiliacosm, Medium Kiliacosm, Major Kiliacosm, Desolation World, Chaotic World, Celestial World, and Primordial Origin World. Logically speaking, the world created by the sail unit of the Supreme Level Timeless Arc should only be a Major Kiliacosm. However, because Fang Qingshan's Timeless Arc was an extremely mutated existence, it created a Desolation World. Just like the inner world created by the World Tree clone, although it was not comparable to a peak existence like Pangu's Desolation World, it was at least of the same grade. With Fang Qingshan's current cultivation, creating a Desolation World was just a piece of cake. It should be known that Pangu had only been at the peak of primordial chaos and had not yet reached the immortal realm, but he could already create a peak Desolation World, even though it was created at the cost of his own death. However, with Fang Qingshan's cultivation that was comparable to a deity emperor, it would not be difficult for him to create a primordial world. It was even possible for him to create a small chaotic world. Moreover, Fang Qingshan did not need to do it himself to create a sail world. With the evolution of the Timeless Ark's laws, it was immediately activated to the maximum. However, as soon as the bloodthirsty demon cave, abyssal ruins, and other secret treasures entered, their power was immediately pushed to the maximum. One by one, they first turned into heaven-splitting divine artifacts, and then directly displayed their strongest means and power, tearing the chaos and splitting the world. For example, the zombie secret realm was like a worm's nest. Endless zombies emerged directly. These zombies had no intelligence and only knew how to kill. They were like marionettes, but they had the advantage in numbers. They covered the sky and earth, and there was no end in sight. They directly exploded, and the quantitative change led to qualitative change, turning into endless destructive power that crazily attacked the entire chaos. This caused the chaos chi to shatter and evolve into earth, fire, water, and wind, expanding the scope of heaven and earth. Fang Qingshan had seen the creation of heaven and earth many times, and he had even created one himself. For example, Pangu's heaven-opening mark, the creation of the Bloody Sea world, the creation of the World Tree clone, and so on. But every time he saw this scene, he would gain something different. Splitting open the heavens was a tribulation, but it was also a good fortune. It was the beginning of the creation of all things in the world, and the operation of all natural laws would begin from this moment. Buzz. First, there was space. After the artifact broke through the chaotic skin's chaotic world, the chaotic chi roiled, and a spatial crack expanded in all directions at lightning speed. It was as if the sun and the moon, the rivers had all become territories. Moreover, it was different from when Pangu split open the skies, and also different from when he split open the world in the past. When Pangu split open the skies, there were 3,000 demon gods obstructing him. After the heaven and earth split open, because the heaven and earth was just beginning to split open, it was not stable. Without a supporting point, the heaven and earth would slowly close up and turn back into chaos. The latter was the same. But now, the sail world was completely different. First of all, there were no calamities, fiend gods, or external devils. Apart from the primal chaos wreaking havoc and the incessant sounds of creation, there were no other movements. As for the heaven and earth closing up, there seemed to be white jade pillars supporting the sky and purple gold beams supporting the sea. The whole world was extremely stable. In fact, the reason for this was because of Fang Qingshan's cultivation and the power of the timeless Arkansas. When Pangu split open the skies and Fang Qingshan opened the worlds, there were external devils invading. Firstly, it was a test of heaven and earth, and secondly, it was because their cultivation was not enough. But now it was different. With Fang Qingshan's cultivation comparable to a god-emperor, the timeless ark could suppress the power of a god-emperor, and the small desolation world that he opened up could attract external devils. How could they dare to cause trouble? As for the problem of the heaven and earth closing up, it was the same. The higher their cultivation, the faster the birth of the natural laws in the world they opened up, and not only was it fast, but it was also impregnable. The space law was stable, the 5 elements law was stable, and there was also the artifact of splitting heaven and earth between heaven and earth. There was no great tribulation, even if they wanted the heaven and earth to close up. In fact, this was normal. After all, things that were built from a strategically advantageous position were naturally extraordinary. However, because Fang Qingshan's realm was too high, although the desolation world that he opened up was still helpful to him, it was not much better than meditating and cultivating. Putting all this aside, the secret treasures had forcibly opened up a great desolate world within the sails. The power of the entire timeless ark increased slightly. After all, the sail unit could be said to be one of the most important units of the entire timeless Arkansas. Not only did it control the speed and direction of the timeless ark, but it also controlled the timeless ark's foundation. Some could even cultivate powerful Tao soldiers to conquer the heavens. Although they might be a little weaker than the eternal Tao soldiers cultivated in the eternal army camp in the divine furnace unit, they were definitely not weak. With these Tao soldiers, the power of the formation could increase by more than 3 levels. Moreover, their lethality was also very shocking. For example, the zombie Tao soldiers in the zombie world. Although these zombies were not very strong individually, they seemed to be far weaker than the Lich, Shura, Angel, and other Sail Tao soldiers. However, they had a great advantage, which was that they reproduced quickly and were not afraid of death. Their numbers were extremely shocking, and they were not inferior to insects. Once they fought, not only could they use the insect C tactic, but they could also use the suicide tactic. 1, 2, 10, 8, or even hundreds or thousands of zombies self-destructing might be just that. But what about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, or even hundreds of millions of zombies self-destructing? Quantitative change led to qualitative change, and the power was self-evident. In fact, this was also normal. All living things in the world converged to form a race. They either took the elite route, like dragons and phoenixes, or immortals and Buddhas. It was difficult for them to reproduce, but they were very strong and invincible. Otherwise, they would take the collective route. Most of these species were small and weak, such as insects and rats. However, they reproduced very quickly, easily numbering in the millions. Their destructive power was also quite astonishing. Not even a single blade of grass could be grown, and even dragons and phoenixes would not be willing to provoke such a large-scale species, because the gains did not make up for the losses. This method was very helpless, but it was also very effective. It was a little like paying for gold. After Fang Qingshan opened up the new sail unit, he finally integrated it with the eternal divine furnace unit. This was already the last step. After the integration was completed, the timeless arc could start to advance. However, as soon as the broken needle, the karma thread, the tower of origin, the wings of freedom, and the power gem entered the core space of the timeless arc, it immediately caused a riot in the eternal divine furnace. Roar! However, the moment the 5 treasures appeared, there was an immediate and hungry roar. The eternal divine furnace trembled as it let out an impatient, hungry, and thirsty roar. Then, the position on the furnace wall that represented the empty unit of the divine furnace suddenly shone brightly, illuminating everything. Chapter 16:02. Rain after a long drought. At this moment, as Fang Qingshan threw the broken needle, the karma thread, the origin tower, the freedom wings, and the power gem into the eternal divine furnace, the eternal divine furnace immediately began to tremble. It was as if it had been waiting for the stars and the moon. It was so excited that it couldn't control itself. In a flash, divine light was emitted like a waterfall, emitting a tyrannical aura. In an instant, the broken needle, the karma thread, the origin tower, the freedom wings, and the power gem were enveloped. Then, it dragged them directly back into the eternal divine furnace. In the next moment, one could see that on the surface of the entire eternal divine furnace, there were 5 mysterious carvings that naturally appeared on the 5 units that were originally empty. One of the carvings was faintly discernible. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't notice it at all. Those who didn't know would think that it was still an empty needle. There was also a thin thread that extended and extended indefinitely. Although the world of mortals was tumultuous, one could still find a trace of connection in the chaos. There was also a pagoda that was completely translucent. It had a total of 33 levels, and from the bottom to the top, it was thinner. Each level was octagonal, with 8 arch doors. The jade walls between the doors were faintly discernible, and there were jade, bell-shaped items hanging on the doors. It was quite mysterious. Every arched door seemed to be surrounded by the source, and from time to time, spiritual light would scatter. It was extremely mysterious. The entire pagoda was crystal clear, and it shone brightly. Looking at it was like looking at the source of all the heavens. They also had a pair of wings that were covered with white feathers. Each feather was engraved with countless mysterious runes, and although they couldn't compare to the lotus rune seal that Fang Qingshan had obtained earlier, they still exuded a mysterious and profound aura. There was no acceleration of time, no derivation of space, only extreme speed. As the wings flapped, enormous power surged out, and as they flapped, countless figures appeared on the wings, pursuing freedom. Each and every one of them charged forward, sacrificing themselves for a noble cause. For the sake of freedom, they were willing to risk their lives. The wings of the Freedom Wings represented the speed of this pair of wings. The extreme speed of this pair of wings was more than double the original speed of the sky ship. As for the Freedom Wings, it represented the ability to not be bound by any rules and obtain true freedom. Unless it was a special danger zone, or if it was specifically targeted, it would be impossible to trap it. In the truest sense, it was a place where one could attack or retreat. As for the last power gem, it also shone with its own light at this moment. Power, power, power. Boundless strength. This gem wasn't like the other treasures. It only had one use, and that was to increase one's strength, an endless amount of strength. Anything placed in front of him would be destroyed by his endless power. Mountains crumbled, seas dried up, the earth split, the sky collapsed. Time couldn't make him waste, space couldn't obliterate him, cause and effect couldn't be controlled by him, and fate couldn't be tied down by him. One strength could defeat all techniques, and one strength could break 10,000 techniques. This was the power gem's limitless power. It was just like how Pangu had suppressed the 3,000 demon gods in the past. With one strength, he could sweep through the world. After the 5 treasures fused into the eternal divine furnace, they all emanated an ancient and mysterious aura, causing the entire eternal divine furnace to exude an ancient charm. It exuded an ancient Taoist charm and might. This was an extreme pressure. Clearly, with the fusion of these treasures, the foundation of the timeless ark was strengthened once again. At the same time, its combat power was clearly enhanced. At the same time, the eternal lightning pool and the lightning gatherer pagoda began to move as well. Endless streams of eternal God force gushed out, and with every breath, pure streams of eternal God force poured into the broken needle, the karma thread, the freedom wings, and the power gem. They complemented each other. The broken needle, the karmic thread, the origin tower, the freedom wings, and the power gem fused with them, strengthening the foundation and power of the timeless Arkansas. At the same time, the timeless ark was also reciprocating the eternal God power, increasing their potential and power. This was also why the Treasurefall coin, the Death Scythe, the Permitha Bridge, and even the 9 Bends Yellow River Array Diagram and the Jodion Star Array Diagram were all connate or acquired treasures in the past. But now, they were no weaker than treasures like the Hibernation Pearl. This was because after they fused with the timeless ark, they were constantly being tempered by the eternal God power. As the timeless ark leveled up, they were constantly breaking through their limits. If not for the eternal divine furnace and the timeless ark, they would not have reached where they were today by themselves. Just like the UN-2 Avicii sword that Mosquito Dowran wielded. Back then, they had been on par, and the UN-2 Avicii sword was even better. All these years, Mosquito Dowran had not relaxed in tempering them. But it was clear that they could not compare to the Treasurefall coin and the other treasures that had been fused with the timeless Arkansas. Helping others was also helping oneself. Whoosh! At this moment, as all the eternal divine furnace units returned to their positions, they gathered together. The entire eternal divine furnace flashed with a green light. Immediately, a vast star map appeared on the surrounding crystal walls. Stars flickered incessantly, emitting a dazzling divine brilliance. The outermost layer was the 9-star alignment. That was when the timeless ark was still at the level of Ling Yun. Further in, there were only the 3 talents convergence. Those were the 3 positions that Ling Yun had obtained when he advanced to unparalleled. Perhaps because his foundation was too strong at the beginning, he could not keep up later, so he only obtained the 3 basic empty positions. Further in, there were the 5 and 7 units that unparalleled had obtained when he advanced to supremacy. At this moment, there was a shroud of starlight, and a boundless power was being nurtured. Clearly, once the timeless arc advanced to immortal, new eternal divine furnace units would appear there. Everything is ready. Only one thing is missing. Now, everything was ready. The eternal divine furnace units were complete, and a new sail unit was created. The tower and deck units were strengthened, and the original divine furnace unit weapons were strengthened. The timeless arc could be said to have reached the point where there was no room for improvement. The only thing left was to break through. However, Feng Qingshan still did not advance immediately. It was not that he did not want to, but there was still a problem, and that was the Divine Emperor chapter of the All Heavens Tao verification spell. Although Feng Qingshan had obtained many Divine Emperor-level Tao books from the Tao Palace, and also absorbed many Divine Emperor-level Tao wills from the Tao list, and even Venerable Emperor Tao wills. There was also the Sermon of the Sword Emperor of the Storm, and the Venerable Emperor Tao recording that he had obtained this time. But in the end, the time was too short. How long had it been since he passed the immortal tribulation? It did not take too much effort to increase his cultivation. After all, when he passed the immortal tribulation, he directly broke through to the late stage of immortal. Then, after the intersect competition, he fought with others, especially Pang Bo. Not only did he consolidate his cultivation, but he also broke through to the peak of immortal realm. Chapter 1603. It was true that Feng Qingshan did not spend much time on the breakthrough in his cultivation, but he did not have much time to calm down and comprehend the cultivation method. First of all, Qingshan still had to search for the eternal divine furnace units. After all, that was the most important thing. If the eternal divine furnace units weren't complete, the eternal heavenly boat wouldn't be able to level up. And if the eternal heavenly boat couldn't level up, there wouldn't be any eternal blessings. Even if he had the cultivation technique, he wouldn't be able to fully comprehend it. If he had to rely on himself, he would have to waste an ocean of time. On the other hand, Feng Qingshan had to search for the eternal divine furnace unit, while searching for the eternal divine furnace unit. He had to search for the divine emperor level cultivation method. Although this search was easier than searching for the eternal divine furnace unit, the search for the eternal divine furnace unit still depended on luck, and the Tao Palace of the Tao could satisfy him. It was not free. Feng Qingshan did not have that many Tao points. Fortunately, fortune came with disaster, and disaster came with blessing. Although he had narrowly escaped death in the Fallen Dragon's secret domain, the final result was good, and it was a little better than Feng Qingshan had expected. Not only did he obtain the origin of destruction, but he also obtained the powerful magic treasure, the Eye of the Last Days. At the same time, he also obtained all the belongings of a late-stage divine emperor and a peak-stage divine emperor. He also had the compensation of the sect, the cultivation method, and the spiritual treasure. It seemed that the worst had turned to the best. The most important thing was that he had developed a new skill, stone gambling. Putting all these aside, even if Feng Qingshan wanted to comprehend the Divine Emperor chapter, he did not need to know all the other Divine Emperor cultivation techniques like the back of his hand and cultivate them to the level where he could command them like an extension of his arm. But at least he needed to have a general understanding of them. Only then could he extract the essence and get rid of the impurities and then integrate it into the Divine Emperor chapter of the All Heavens Tao verification technique. Of course, it was not that he could not comprehend the eternal blessing. At that time, the comprehension would not only be faster, but it would also be twice the result with half the effort. However, Feng Qingshan didn't want to do that. It was too wasteful of God's gifts. Although his cultivation had reached the peak of this realm, almost at the point where there was no more room for improvement, it was as if he could make a breakthrough with just a thought. However, because he was busy searching for the Timeless Ark's Divine Furnace Unit, he didn't have much time to study it. As a result, he hadn't even built the framework for the All Heavens Tao Corroboration Art's Divine Emperor chapter. Of course, once the Timeless Ark leveled up, everything would be fine with the eternal blessing. However, if he could set up the framework first, he could only focus on perfecting it later and filling in the gaps. Not only would it be easier, but it would also consume less energy. It should be noted that the eternal blessing wasn't the strongest opportunity in the universe, but it was at least one of the top 3 in the same realm. The advancement of the timeless arc was a great opportunity. Every advancement only came with a single opportunity. If he missed it, he would truly miss it. No matter what, it would be a lifelong regret. He had to make the best use of everything and use this opportunity to the extreme. Such an existence was like a jack of all trades. Not only could it be used to improve one's cultivation, but it could also be used to improve one's understanding of Tao and nomological laws. It could also be used to temper one's body, refine spirit treasures, and so on. There was nothing one couldn't think of. For Fang Qingshan, it was naturally a reasonable allocation to maximize the effectiveness and benefits. If he used more eternal blessings to comprehend cultivation techniques, he would naturally be able to use them less in other areas. Actually, this wasn't a big deal. The key thing was that this kind of waste could be avoided, and it was a reckless waste of resources. Therefore, what Fang Qingshan needed to do now was to absorb the essence of various techniques and derive the Divine Emperor chapter. Once the timeless arc leveled up, he would use the Divine Emperor chapter's divine grace when the timeless arc leveled up to complete the Divine Emperor chapter and reach perfection. It had always been like this in the past. Fang Qingshan first used various techniques to build the framework for the All Heavens Tao corroboration art. Then, through the creation of the eternal blessing, he perfected the framework and derived it perfectly. When the timeless arc leveled up, it felt like he was bathing in the ocean of the great path. It was truly wonderful. It was a unique advantage in understanding any technique. However, it also had a unique effect on improving one's cultivation base, tempering one's body, comprehending the nomological laws, comprehending supernatural abilities, and refining spirit treasures. If he wanted to comprehend the Divine Emperor chapter and accumulate it slowly over time, there was nothing much to say. Fang Qingshan would never do that. However, it was just a framework. Although it would take some time, it was still within acceptable limits. Using this bit of time to exchange for the eternal blessing's blessing on other cultivation methods, this was truly making the best use of one's talent and resources. For others, it wasn't easy to comprehend the framework. After all, this was a Divine Emperor level technique, especially since Fang Qingshan's cultivation had not broken through to the Divine Emperor level. He was only at the peak of the immortal realm. Although his combat power had reached that level, it had little to do with his realm. However, Fang Qingshan was different. First of all, he had dozens of Divine Emperor level techniques, 2 Venerable Emperor's lectures, and 1 Venerable Emperor's lifetime comprehension. With these things, he could use them as a reference and comprehend by analogy. He could also learn from other mountain stones to improve himself. Moreover, with Fang Qingshan's talent, he was definitely not weaker than the peerless talents like the Heavenly Evil Marquis he had met in the Tidal Tower. Finally, there were the auxiliary methods. The Bodhi tree was originally just a top-level spiritual root. However, as Fang Qingshan continued to cultivate it, it was not weaker than the Tree of Worlds doppelganger. As the timeless arc leveled up, the effect of the spiritual liquid of origin became stronger. There was also the eternal mind lamp method. With these external and internal help, it was not difficult for Fang Qingshan to comprehend the framework of the Divine Emperor chapter. It would not take him much time either. Moreover, he could use the passing water lamp to change the flow of time. The Great Path was eternal. The timeless arc was on the highest floor of the tower unit. This was where Fang Qingshan lived. It was also where he cultivated in seclusion. It was not only the safest place, but also the most effective. A towering tree stood at the very center. It was the Bodhi tree. The sound of Sanskrit was like the heavenly sound of the great Tao, causing people to sink into a meditative state. Their primordial spirits were unprecedentedly intelligent. Under the Bodhi tree was a boundless ocean. It was the ocean of the spiritual liquid of origin. It did not need to be drunk, but the effect was not bad at all. Under the Bodhi tree, above the ocean of the spiritual liquid of origin, there was a lotus platform floating. This was the Enlightenment lotus platform that Fang Qingshan had obtained later. It was similar to the Bodhi tree. Fang Qingshan took a step forward and sat on the Enlightenment Lotus platform. He took out some auxiliary enlightenment treasures and consumed them. With a thought, the eternal mind lamp was lit. Instantly, Fang Qingshan began his enlightenment journey. Chapter 1604. Comprehending a cultivation method was not something that could be done in a day, but that was only for others. With Fang Qingshan's great talent and so many things that could help improve his power of understanding, he also had countless divine emperor-level cultivation methods for him to refer to. The most important thing was not something that could be done in a day. After all, the passing water lamp was lit up soon after. Time were changed at this moment. An instant might have passed in the outside world, but 10 years or even 100 years might have passed in the eternal heaven of the Great Path. Of course, Fang Qingshan was wrong to say that he had comprehended a framework, because he already had a rough understanding of the framework. After all, he had already laid the foundation of the all-heavens doctrine of the way. He also had reference to the all-heaven chessboard, a rare treasure and a myriad worlds technique, a top imperial-level cultivation method. However, Fang Qingshan did not have the Divine Emperor chapter of the myriad worlds technique. Otherwise, it would be even easier. Even though he hadn't obtained it yet, he had obtained the 10 realms and 100 realms chapters before. Thus, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to deduce the next cultivation technique, especially since he could use the all-heavens chessboard as a reference. Furthermore, he wouldn't be copying it completely. Therefore, he needed to fill in the essences of other cultivation methods. Then, Fang Qingshan sat down cross-legged. Heavenly sounds rang out. Fang Qingshan instantly fell into a state of comprehension. The various divine emperor-level cultivation methods that he had seen in the Great Path Palace. The various divine emperor-level Tao wills that he had absorbed from the list of path wills that he had later absorbed with the help of the imperial-level Tao wills. The heavenly sound of the Great Path that had been recorded when the Sword Emperor of the Storm was teaching. The recordings that had been similar to the Venerable Emperor's teaching at the trade fair. One thing after another. All kinds of things that could help Fang Qingshan build the all-heavens doctrine of the way of the way of the way was presented one by one. Fang Qingshan's mind was running like crazy. The epics movement. Heaven and earth have tribulations, and geniuses will appear in every generation. Each of them will lead a new era. This is a peerless cultivation method created by an ancient divine emperor after countless eras. Although it hasn't reached the venerable sovereign realm, it's very mysterious. Dynasty Fortune Codex. This is a peerless divine technique cultivated by the emperors of a dynasty. With the support of the dynasty, not only is the cultivation speed of this technique fast, it is also very powerful. However, success or failure depends on the dynasty. This technique is restricted by the dynasty's luck. Once the dynasty's luck is damaged, the cultivation base will be damaged as well. It's just like the 4-ocean 8 desolation sword and the people's umbrella. When the Great Qin dynasty was still around, it was naturally very powerful. However, when the Great Qin dynasty was destroyed, these two treasures were not even third-grade treasures anymore. Severing karma. This technique seems to be a Buddhist technique, but Dan isn't. It's just that Buddhism places great importance on karma. That's why I have this misconception. This technique is actually about continuously forming karma and then severing it. Not only will it strengthen itself, it's just like those heavens chosen. As long as they don't get killed in a single blow, they will rise from the ashes and become even stronger. Technique after technique emerged in Fang Qingshan's mind like mushrooms after a spring rain. The divine emperor-level techniques that could be valued by Fang Qingshan or that were devoured by low-level emperor-level Tao wills all had their own unique Tao wills. After all, Fang Qingshan's Tao wills and sea of consciousness were limited. Naturally, he needed to absorb more mysterious, exquisite, and bizarre technique Tao wills. Just like the divine furnace unit of the Timeless Ark, it was better to have nothing than to have something shoddy and strive for perfection. Every peck and every drink had its own destiny. Because these techniques were profound, it wasn't that easy to comprehend them. Even if Feng Qingshan was talented, even if he had all kinds of auxiliary secret techniques, if it wasn't for the passing water lamp that changed the flow of time, even if he was just building a framework, he was afraid that it would take him hundreds of years or even more. Fortunately, Feng Qingshan only needed to follow the meridian of the myriad worlds technique, expand it bit by bit, and then integrate the essence of various techniques, and then adjust it to the most suitable chapter for himself. The Great Way was boundless, mysterious, and abstruse. The Great Way was even more fascinating. If it wasn't for Feng Qingshan's strong temperament, it wouldn't take long for him to be completely immersed in comprehending these divine emperor-level techniques. He would become immersed in them with great relish, and even be unable to extricate himself. After all, one could die without regrets after learning the Great Way in the morning. The Great Tao was much more attractive than any temptation or poison. Some people didn't suffer from qi deviation during the process of cultivation, nor did they reach the limit of their lifespan. They didn't even have any accidents, but in the end, they died for no reason, and they even had a smile on their face, feeling refreshed. In fact, this was their Tao assimilation. It meant that they were immersed in the Great Way, unable to extricate themselves, and finally assimilated by the Great Way. Fortunately, Feng Qingshan didn't have to worry about this, because his will didn't relax for a moment, and he was almost unparalleled at the same level. Even many divine emperors couldn't compare. Moreover, he didn't completely immerse himself in the Great Way. He always remembered his goal, which was to build the framework of the divine emperor chapter of the Way verification mantra in heavens. With the illumination of the eternal heart lamp, his primordial spirit was naturally clear. Putting all of this aside, as time passed, it didn't seem like much time had passed in the outside world. Even the celebration for Yi Dao Xian and Jiang Buang hadn't ended, but in the eternal heaven, more than 100 years had passed, or even more. However, Feng Qingshan was the same as the people in the outside world. He didn't notice it at all. This was probably the feeling of having no sun or moon in the mountains and having been in the world for 1,000 years. He was so focused on comprehending the techniques that he had long forgotten the passage of time. Feng Qingshan was like a dry sponge, crazily absorbing every bit of nutrients. He constantly enriched himself and strengthened his foundation. His knowledge began to increase at an unbelievable speed. His aura also changed with every breath he took. Of course, this wasn't referring to his aura or cultivation, but his temperament. It was the kind of temperament that was well-read and well-studied, and the light of wisdom on his body was almost tangible. However, the results were gratifying. The chapter of the epoch, the codex of fate, the karma severing, and other techniques were eliminated by Feng Qingshan, and he picked out the parts that were most suitable for him, adding them to the divine emperor chapter of the Way verification mantra in heavens. This technique began to be perfected at a speed visible to the naked eye. It wasn't just the cultivation of the technique itself, but also the magical powers, secret techniques, and the 100 arts of cultivation that went along with it were all perfected. Whoosh! At a certain moment, Feng Qingshan finally finished comprehending the last technique, the will of the Way and the sound of the Way. A golden chapter formed in Feng Qingshan's mind, and Feng Qingshan's aura naturally changed as well. It was like the waves of the sea, the wind blowing, and the clouds scudding. It was a good thing that he didn't directly break through. In this regard, others naturally couldn't ask for more. If they encountered it, they would naturally push the boat with the current. However, Feng Qingshan didn't. He desperately suppressed the urge to break through, and he almost didn't succeed. Chapter 1605. What was the purpose of cultivation? To cultivate the heart, to increase one's life, to increase one's compatibility. But at the end of the day, it was still to increase one's cultivation level. As long as one's cultivation level increased, one's state of mind, lifespan, compatibility, and everything else would increase. Even if one was a cultivator who relied on resources, as long as one's cultivation level reached a certain level, one could easily crush others. Therefore, cultivation level breakthroughs were the most crucial. If one was afraid of an unstable foundation, then so be it. But for Fang Qingshan, there was no room for improvement. When the conditions were right, success would come naturally. Yet, he still suppressed it without hesitation. Was he stupid? No. Fang Qingshan had always been very clear-headed. There was only one reason why he was like this. He was waiting for the eternal blessing. Yes, Fang Qingshan's cultivation level had reached a point where he could break through with a single thought. That seemed to be the limit of his limits. But he still wanted to wait for the eternal blessing to break through. The reason was simple. He wanted every breakthrough he made to be perfect. He wanted every breakthrough to be able to break through one limit after another. Only then could he lay down an unprecedented foundation. Only then could he turn big into small when he encounters a big bottleneck. Only then could he truly break through to the fifth level of the universe. Since the infinite void was created, no one had ever broken through to the fifth level. After all, though his talent was extraordinary, there were countless living beings in the infinite void that were more heaven-defying than he was, especially those who were born holy and favored by the heavens. For them, cultivation was as easy as eating and drinking. This was something he could not compare to. As for the eternal blessing, though the timeless arc was rare, and those who reached the undying, immortal, and eternal were even rarer, it wasn't as if there were none. What did he rely on to stand out from the crowd and create history? Only by laying down an unprecedented foundation at every step and walking down a path that no one else has walked before. Though this way, there was no guarantee that he would definitely break through. After all, there were still variables. But if he didn't do this, it was almost certain that he wouldn't break through. After all, others had proven this through countless years. The eternal blessing was such a great fortune. After all, it was a great fortune that didn't belong to the myriad of worlds. Not only could it make up for the flaws in one's cultivation, but could also help one break through one's limits and improve further. Of course, only the master of the timeless arc, Fang Qingshan, could do such a thing. Because the stronger one's foundation was, the better it was. Because the more solid it was, the more difficult it was to break through. Without eternal blessings, without limitless resources, without top-notch talent, without karmic luck, and so on and so forth, doing so was no different from digging one's own grave. Putting all this aside, as Fang Qingshan did his best to suppress the fluctuations of his breakthrough, he did not fall short of success. However, the aura on his body also became more profound, exuding a unique aura like a black hole that was about to explode. Obviously, even if Fang Qingshan could suppress it for a while, he wouldn't be able to for long. If the timeless arc didn't advance, it wouldn't be long before he couldn't suppress it anymore. Slowly letting out a long breath, Fang Qingshan sighed. Finally, this moment has come. The timeless arc's divine furnace unit is complete. The All Heavens Tao Verification Art's divine emperor part is complete, and my cultivation has reached a point where I can't suppress it anymore. Then let's break through. At this moment, Fang Qingshan's eyes suddenly became fiery. The light in his eyes shone brighter than the sun, moon, and stars. Now we can begin. Fang Qingshan muttered to himself, Paramitha, evolve and ascend to the immortal rank. Following Fang Qingshan's command, the timeless arc immediately moved. A beam of divine light shot out and swept Fang Qingshan out of the great Tao timeless arc and saw. He fell into the core space of the timeless arc, with a lightning-gathering tower, eternal lightning pool, and eternal divine furnace were located. Rumble. Following that, the timeless arc's main body began to expand like a balloon. With a loud bang, it revealed its true appearance and descended on Fang Qingshan's dojo, Samsara Star. Immediately, the entire dojo became crowded. This wasn't the end. This was just the appetizer. In a flash, the timeless arc, which was already hundreds of thousands of meters in size, continued to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. 300,000 meters, 400,000 meters, 500,000 meters, 600,000 meters. The various supreme treasures that Feng Qingshan had fused into the timeless arc, especially the Origin Tower, played a crucial role at this moment. The evolution power that had been stored in the eternal lightning pool for an unknown period of time turned into majestic tides. Like a broken dam, it surged out violently and shuttled through the body of the timeless arc, fusing into it and turning it into nutrients, allowing the timeless arc to grow rapidly. It was as if it had been injected with adrenaline. It continued to expand. In the blink of an eye, the body of the heavenly vessel had already expanded to a whopping 990,000 feet in length. The aura it emitted was simply unheard of. Ordinary immortals wouldn't even be able to resist such an aura. This was also Feng Qingshan's Permitha. It had only advanced to the immortal rank, yet it had caused such a huge commotion, and its aura was so powerful. One should know that other people's timeless arc, even those top existences, when they advanced to the immortal rank, their timeless arc would only reach around 490,000 meters. On the other hand, Feng Qingshan's Nirvana ship was able to reach 500,000 feet. The difference between them was self-evident. Actually, this was normal. After all, it wasn't the timeless Arkansas. When it was at the Supreme Being rank, it had fused with 3 supreme treasures. Moreover, it wasn't just 1 or 2, and it wasn't an ordinary 3 supreme treasure, but an early 3 supreme treasure. Similarly, it wasn't the timeless Arkansas. When it was at the Supreme Being rank, it could let its host cultivation directly step into the God Emperor rank. Moreover, it wasn't an early God Emperor rank, but a middle God Emperor rank battle power. One could see the whole leopard from one spot. Such a change was actually within his expectations. If there wasn't such a change, perhaps it would be even more surprising. Let's not talk about this. As the timeless arc crazily expanded, countless mysterious Tao patterns naturally appeared on it. These Tao patterns seemed to have been inscribed on it since it was born. Lotus flowers bloomed. That was the evolution of faith, and also the projection of the everlasting lotus. For a moment, the entire timeless arc was enveloped in an endless lotus kingdom. It was as if the timeless arc was a living being, and the endless lotus flowers were a placenta. Feng Qingshan stood in the core of the eternal divine furnace, and he was also the master of the timeless Arkansas naturally. He was the clearest about the changes in the timeless Arkansas. It could be said that at this moment, any change in the timeless arc was clearly reflected in his mind. An indescribable feeling arose in his heart. Chapter 1606. Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, 3 begets all things. Humans follow the earth follows the heavens, heaven follows the Tao, and the Tao follows nature. Cultivation required more than just following the prescribed order and following the rules. It also required one to follow the laws of heaven and earth, and the Tao to follow nature. Every time the eternal heavenly vessel advanced, every time it evolved, it was a fortuitous encounter. Among them, the eternal blessing was the best. Whether it was the timeless arc's attempt to break through its bottleneck or the God's blessing, the everlasting lotus's blessing was the most profound and mysterious good fortune. But that didn't mean that only the eternal blessing was a good fortune. As the master of the timeless arc, Feng Qingshan's mind was naturally closely linked to the timeless Arkansas. Every change in the timeless arc was in his eyes. And while the enlightenment brought about by this change was not as good as the eternal blessing, it was still an amazing opportunity. This was like the Emperor's Stone. Obtaining it would mean gaining the experience of an Emperor's breakthrough. In the future, when he broke through again, it would naturally be twice the result with half the effort. Although the timeless arc was not a true life form, its effects were not bad. Understanding the timeless arc's breakthrough was like understanding the changes of the great Tao of heaven and earth. It was a great benefit. Standing in the core space of the timeless arc, Feng Qingshan's mind followed the eternal God's power from the pool of eternal lightning to the timeless Arkansas. With the emergence of the eternal God's power, the timeless arc was slowly evolving to a higher grade. It was like a catalyst. The golden wind and jade dew met, and it was better than countless things in the mortal world. Endless Tao runes sprang up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, covering the entire body of the timeless Arkansas. These Tao runes were mysterious, profound, ancient, and eternal. They were different from the boundless void and the myriad worlds, but they belonged to the unknown primordial origins. One Tao after another, they linked up, interweaving together like meridians, causing the entire eternal heavenly vessel to fuse into a single entity. Following these Tao runes and meridians, Feng Qingshan's mind completely permeated every inch of the skyship. When the timeless arc advanced, there was naturally a wave of unmatched good fortune, endless vitality surging. Every tremble was like a breath. With every breath, he was transforming. Every inch of his body was like real flesh, blood, and bones, possessing limitless growth potential. The Tao could be Tao, but it was not the Tao. The name could be named, but it was not the name. It was the most mysterious of mysteries, the most wonderful of mysteries. Everything went according to his heart. Everything was under his control. When the man and the treasure became one, the man was the boat, and the boat was the man. At this moment, Feng Qingshan seemed to have fallen into a state of Tao comprehension once more. He seemed to be asleep, yet not asleep, awake, yet not awake, and he didn't have a single thought in his mind. In his mind, his primordial spirit revolved wildly, and his natural law bloomed with endless divine light, penetrating every inch of the timeless Arkansas. He was observing every change in the timeless arc, and at the same time, he was attuning to the timeless arc and comprehending the timeless Arkansas. During this process, even though Feng Qingshan's cultivation base did not increase, the turbulent aura that he had felt when he was on the verge of breaking through from being unable to suppress his cultivation base gradually calmed down. Clearly, this was because Feng Qingshan's control over his body had become more refined, and his body's capacity had also been expanded. In order for the timeless arc to advance smoothly, Feng Qingshan had been preparing for a long time. Endless power of will, countless rare treasures, and countless treasures. Every time the timeless arc advanced, it would bring endless benefits to Feng Qingshan, greatly increasing his cultivation and combat power. But at the same time, every time the timeless arc advanced, it would also make Feng Qingshan go bankrupt. This was because in order for the timeless arc to advance smoothly, the eternal divine furnace unit was naturally important, but other aspects were also indispensable. For example, the body of the timeless arc needed to be strengthened, the deck unit needed to be tempered, the tower unit needed to be replenished, the sail unit needed to be developed, the mast unit needed to be erected, and the market unit needed to be enhanced, and all of this required resources. Whether it was spirit treasures, natural treasures, or power of will and merit. The cost would be indescribable, even if it were a sea of resources. Therefore, if Feng Qingshan said he was rich, and if he said he was poor, he was poor. He was rich because the timeless arc alone was enough to surpass the net worth of most people. He was poor because he often could not make ends meet. Therefore, Feng Qingshan learned Zhuni's 1 meter higher sky. Not even a blade of grass grows. It was not that they were shameless, but they were forced by life. Not to mention, Feng Qingshan had spent so many good things, almost everything he had, so naturally, the heavens did not let him down. It was precisely with so many resources that the timeless arc could advance smoothly. In fact, as long as the body of the timeless arc was strengthened and there was no shortage of eternal divine furnace units, the timeless arc could advance smoothly. It was just that it was the same reason Feng Qingshan had to first build the framework of the All Heavens Tao Verification Art Divine Emperor chapter. Indeed, even without doing so, it could still be advanced and perfected. But in the end, it would be the power of the eternal blessing that would be consumed. This was not something that could make up for the losses. After all, the power of evolution needed to advance could be achieved by relying on the resources in the universe. It was just a matter of consuming more resources and time. However, the eternal blessing was one of a kind in the entire universe, and its effects were unparalleled. At least, it could not be compared to the resources consumed. This was because in terms of the advancement of cultivation alone, the eternal blessing could advance quickly and without any bottlenecks. On the other hand, even if there were no bottlenecks in resources of the same level, just digesting it would take a long time. Not to mention that, with the splashing of the power of evolution, the entire timeless arc was like rain after a long drought. It hungrily and crazily absorbed the evolution energy of life that was bred in the timeless Arkansas. The timeless Arkansas. It grew and expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. After expanding to 990,000 feet, it could be said to be the limit that a supreme could reach. But its changes did not stop there. The previous changes were general, and it was the expansion of the body of the timeless Arkansas. The next changes were naturally changes to the various units inside the timeless Arkansas. The core space, the eternal divine furnace, the eternal lightning pool, the lightning tower, the deck, the tower, the mast, the sails, the market. Moreover, the speed was also extremely fast. It was immeasurable, and it was transforming every 10 millionth of a second. Some of these changes happened along with the expansion of the body of the timeless Arkansas. It was like an inflated balloon, constantly expanding with every breath. But most of the changes were not in size, but in quality. As the power of evolution was swallowed up by every inch of the space in the timeless arc, the changes in the timeless arc were almost earth-shattering. The first change was the eternal lightning pool. As one of the three most important treasures of the timeless arc, the changes in the eternal lightning pool were the most shocking. Chapter 16:07. As the timeless arc leveled up, the eternal divine power stored within the eternal lightning pool began to decrease at a visible rate. The entire eternal lightning pool was filled to the brim, but the evolution force was decreasing with every passing moment. This wasn't only because the timeless arc had leveled up, but also because the space within the pool of eternal lightning had become much larger. It was even larger than the desolation world that the sails had opened up. At the same time, the speed and efficiency of the eternal lightning pool's conversion into eternal divine power had increased by more than tenfold. Even so, the eternal divine power in the eternal lightning pool still felt like it was insufficient to keep up with its consumption. From this, it could be seen how great the consumption of a single advancement was. The lightning gathering pagoda and the eternal divine furnace should have changed the most. After all, these two items were the three core treasures of the timeless arc, along with the eternal lightning pool. But it wasn't the case this time. This time, the eternal lightning pool was second only to the origin tower, which had just fused with the timeless Arkansas. Fang Qingshan had long wanted to establish a source of motivation for the timeless Arkansas. In the past, he could only upgrade the lightning gathering pagoda. Now that he had the origin pagoda, how could he not take action? Although the grade of the origin tower wasn't outstanding, Fang Qingshan had given up on upgrading the other units of the origin tower. It had actually been upgraded to the peak of level 3, almost reaching the peak of level 3. Once the timeless arc underwent its final transformation, breaking through would be as easy as drinking water and eating a meal. Next was the lightning gathering tower and the eternal divine furnace. Although the former had been relegated to the second tier due to the origin tower, he was still a saint. However, it was clear that even though Fang Qingshan had put in a lot of effort to nurture the origin tower, it could not replace the lightning gathering tower in the short term. Moreover, the reason why Fang Qingshan wanted to create his own source of power was because he wanted to reduce the karma with the other worlds and was afraid of being controlled by others. This didn't mean that the lightning gathering tower was useless. At the very least, before the origin tower fully matured, it could not be delayed or neglected. Moreover, even after the origin tower was fully developed, it only ensured that the timeless arc would be more powerful and would not be controlled by others. However, the lightning gathering tower did not lose its usefulness. It still played an important role. Only when the lightning gathering tower and the origin tower worked together could the timeless arc be truly fearless. As for the latter, it was the most important unit of the timeless Arkansas. If its grade and quality weren't good enough, it would be a huge drag on the Timeless Ark's operation, attack, defense, support, and so on. An incompetent general will exhaust the entire army. The Eternal Divine Furnace had such an effect. Besides that, the Eye of the Last Days had changed the most. Although this treasure was only medial LV3, it was so powerful that many peak LV3 treasures couldn't compare to it. If it wasn't for Feng Qingshan's intention to improve the Origin Tower, the Eternal Lightning Pool, the Eternal Divine Furnace, and the Lightning Gathering Tower, the Eye of the Last Days would have definitely been the most improved. Even if Feng Qingshan hadn't been able to improve its grade, the Eye of the Last Days was still so powerful. Without Feng Qingshan's help, how could the other treasures compete with the Eye of the Last Days? As soon as the strands of power of evolution entered the Eternal Divine Furnace, the Eye of the Last Days devoured them. On the other hand, the other treasures shared 70 to 80% of the remaining power. This was probably the case of the strong being strong and the weak being weak. If it wasn't for Feng Qingshan intentionally suppressing the Eye of the Last Days and the fact that the Timeless Ark needed balance, it might have been possible for the Eye of the Last Days to seize half of the power of evolution. However, there were gains and losses. Even though the Eye of the Last Days had seized the power of evolution from the other treasures, the outcome was a happy one. As the power of evolution was digested, the transformation of the Eye of the Last Days could be said to be tremendous. An eye soared into the sky, and then numerous Last Days Tao markings that carried the aura of death, despair, spirit energy drying up, and the Grand Tao were ceaselessly inscribed on the Eye of the Last Days at lightning speed. At the same time, the aura of the Last Days was ceaselessly strengthening. With practically no effort at all, the Eye of the Last Days had followed closely behind the Quintessence Pagoda and advanced into the peak of the high rank. After all, it was a formidable treasure that possessed the ability to advance into the 4th rank. The reason it was only at the mid-rank 3rd rank earlier was firstly because some of its power of destruction had been seized by Feng Qingshan and the other treasures, and it was also because the resources and reserves of the Fallen Dragon Secret Realm were still insufficient. Now, its power of evolution was abundant, and it naturally advanced into the Eye of the Last Days. At the same time, the aura of the Last Days that it emanated caused the other treasures to be utterly unable to compete with it. With the might of the Dharma-ending Grand Divine Power, apart from the red Karmic Fire Lotus and the Treasurefall Coin, all the other treasures were within his range of restraint. The red Karmic Fire Lotus relied on Karmic Fire. Even though the Dharma ending period was the Dharma ending period and the Great Tao no longer existed, Karmic Fire still existed. As long as there was Karmic Fire, it could be ignited. Moreover, because the red Lotus of Hellfire was of the same Lotus attribute as the Timeless Ark, it was tainted with a trace of eternal charm, which was why it could resist the corrosion of the age-ending theurgy. As for the Treasurefall Coin, it was because the closer it was to the end of the world, the more powerful the power of money would be. Money could reach the gods, and money could make the devil turn millstones. This was vividly displayed during the end of the world. On top of that, the Treasurefall Coin could drop everything and restrain all spiritual treasures. So, these two treasures were like pulling the teeth out of a tiger's mouth, and they'd obtained a share from the Eye of the Last Days. Thus, the red Karmic Fire Lotus and Treasurefall Coin were the Eternal Divine Furnace units that Chun-Shi had obtained the greatest benefits from eliminating the Eye of the Last Days. Apart from the Eternal Divine Furnace unit, the Tower unit, the Sail unit, the Mast unit, and the Market unit had also made some progress. However, only second to the Divine Furnace unit was the Deck unit. In the beginning, the Timeless Arts weapon units were divided into two. One was the Eternal Divine Furnace unit, and the other was the Deck unit. In Feng Qingshan's eyes, the Eternal Divine Furnace unit was naturally a precious treasure, and the Deck unit was a conventional weapon. So, Feng Qingshan had always attached great importance to the Eternal Divine Furnace unit, and the Deck unit was just getting by. Although this couldn't be considered wrong, after all, everything had its priorities. However, it was precisely because of this that the Deck unit had never been very effective. especially since Fang Qingshan frequently challenged those at a higher cultivation level than him. Conventional weapons were simply useless. Since it was a conventional weapon, its might naturally wasn't that powerful. It was naturally effective against ordinary people, and even those with cultivations weaker than Fang Qingshan. However, it just so happened that Fang Qingshan encountered geniuses who were either at the same cultivation level as him or were even more powerful than him. Moreover, even if he encountered those who were weaker than him in all aspects, he wouldn't even need to use the timeless Arkansas. As such, there was no need for him to use the eternal heavenly vessel. After all, just a casual divine ability would be enough to deal with anything. Chapter 1608. Fang Qingshan did not even need to use the timeless arc to deal with regular problems. His own god art was enough to deal with most of them. Using the timeless arc was like using a cannon to kill a mosquito, making a mountain out of a molehill. If he could not deal with the problem with his god art, he would have to use the eternal divine furnace weapon unit to use the timeless Arkansas. The regular attacks of the deck unit would obviously not be of much use. Therefore, for the advancement of the timeless arc, Fang Qingshan was prepared to greatly enhance the deck unit. He was not prepared to use it as a regular weapon unit. Not to mention that it would be on par with the eternal divine furnace unit immediately, but it had to catch up. Therefore, this time, Fang Qingshan not only integrated refined crystals, ink gold, soul stones, and other treasures into the deck unit, but also various other treasures that could upgrade the arrow towers, ballistas, cannons, magic towers, and soul-shaking clocks. That way, as the timeless arc advanced, the attack power of the deck unit could increase rapidly. If it continued to increase, one day, it would catch up with the eternal divine furnace unit. This might make the timeless arc consume more resources to advance. After all, just like Mosquito Dorn's advancement, each advancement required a large amount of evolutionary resources. Moreover, in order to ensure the sharpness and uniqueness of the attack, the evolutionary resources integrated each time could not only be regular evolutionary resources, but also special treasures of heaven and earth. Even so, in the long run, it was more beneficial. First, the timeless arc was one of his trump cards. Once it was used, it would definitely be a fierce battle. In that case, the regular weapons could not be used at all. If he did not modify it, he would definitely waste a weapon unit, which was not worth it. Moreover, if the deck unit could be used properly, the timeless arc would be equivalent to adding several eternal divine furnace units out of thin air. With this increase and decrease, the foundation of the timeless arc was strengthened rapidly. However, the eternal lightning pool, which was originally full of eternal divine power, was now being digested at an alarming rate and naturally integrated into the unit. If it was in the past, he would have been a little worried. After all, the timeless arc's next upgrades to the eternal, and eternal divine furnace units required level 4 weapons that were enough to give him a headache, not to mention the addition of the deck weapon unit. Fortunately, with the new skill, stone gambling, Fang Qingshan's chances of obtaining rare treasures and top-grade treasures had greatly increased. Even if he couldn't use them himself, he could use them to trade. This way, although the resources needed for the timeless arc had greatly increased, the pressure on him didn't increase by much. As the eternal evolution divine power in the pool of eternal lightning diminished visibly, it was devoured and digested by the various units of the timeless Arkansas. In an instant, an incomparably vast and imposing aura burst forth. It was as if a top-notch god emperor had completely unleashed his aura. Waves of terrifying pressure rolled out in all directions like a tidal wave. Wherever it went, the void distorted. The entire samsara star seemed to be unable to bear the burden and was on the verge of collapse, as if it had been greatly affected. It seems like the advancement of the timeless Arkansas. Good heavens, this is the advancement from the supreme level to the immortal level, right? Such a big movement. The only person from the Dao sect who has the timeless arc is Fang Qingshan, the champion of the inner disciple competition. Dao sect. What a Dao sect. Before it, there was Yi Dao Xian, Jiang Overlord, and now there's Fong Qingshan. They're really advancing wave after wave. The movement caused by the advancement of the timeless arc by Fong Qingshan was too big. Not to mention the Reincarnation Dojo's protective formation. Even the Reincarnation Dojo was on the verge of collapse. How could they still conceal this aura? Even if they managed to conceal it now, when the eternal blessing descended, it would still be exposed. Of course, Fong Qingshan didn't think of concealing it, because it was impossible and completely unnecessary. He didn't need to pretend to be weak, nor did he need to be afraid of being shot at. As for the latter, he still had a life-saving method left by the ancestor of the Tao sect in his mind. As long as it wasn't an emperor-level existence who attacked him, it shouldn't be too big of a problem for him to stay alive. Most importantly, as long as his timeless arc advanced, all the conspiracies would have almost no effect on him. Before the advancement of the timeless arc, Fong Qingshan already had the battle prowess of a late-stage divine emperor. After the advancement of both, not to mention the battle prowess of an emperor-level, half-step divine emperor, it wouldn't be a problem for him to have the battle prowess of a top-level divine emperor. At this moment, the aura displayed by the timeless arc was not inferior to that of Chong Lushui, unless they sent an emperor or he fell into the ambush of dozens of peak divine emperors. He could go anywhere in the world if he wanted to. In this case, he wouldn't be afraid of being exposed or being targeted. This was strength and confidence. All the conspiracies were paper tigers in the face of absolute strength. Great, great. I didn't expect Qingshan to break through so soon after Dao Xian and Overlord broke through. God is really blessing the Dao sect. Yes, Qingshan's aura isn't inferior to us peak divine emperors, even though he hasn't succeeded yet. After he really breaks through, I'm afraid that even the sect master might not be able to defeat him unless he uses a treasure like the Dao list. Compared to the envy and jealousy of the others, the people of the Dao sect were very excited. In particular, Daoist Yi and Dao Yi Boy were both pleasantly surprised. After all, they knew that the Dao sect's ancestor had placed his last trace of hope on Fong Qingshan. In the entire Dao sect, Fong Qingshan was probably the only one who had such a fortuitous encounter. And Fong Qingshan finally didn't let the old man down. He broke through so quickly, and once he broke through, it was unstoppable. If it was said that Fong Qingshan was only a future hope during the inner disciple competition, then once he broke through now, he would probably become the mainstay of the Dao sect. Just as some elders had said, without using a level 4 supreme treasure, even Daoist, he might not be as powerful as Fong Qingshan. Moreover, Fong Qingshan had only broken through to the divine emperor level, and the timeless arc had broken through to the immortal realm. If he went one step further on the divine emperor path and became a peak divine emperor, and the timeless arc had broken through to the immortal realm, how powerful would his combat power be? A half step to emperor level, or even a venerable emperor? Then, wouldn't the Dao sect be able to return to its heyday and revive the Dao sect? Thinking of this, the elders who had experienced the Dao sect's heyday could not contain their excitement. They had waited for this day for too long. Chapter 1609. Fong Qingshan did not care about the others' emotions, surprise, jealousy, or hatred. He did not have the mood to care about any of this. At this moment, the timeless arc had reached the final step of advancement. All the power of evolution had been completely devoured, and the timeless arc had reached the critical point. However, the timeless arc did not directly advance to the immortal rank. The reason for this was naturally that it was still missing one last step, one stimulation, one catalysis, and that was the eternal blessing. The eternal blessing was not only an unprecedented opportunity for the master of the timeless arc, but it was also a key to the advancement of the timeless arc in Sa. Only with the eternal blessing could the timeless arc complete its final transformation. Otherwise, no matter how much power of evolution it had, it would just be an illusion. Fong Qingshan's mind was immersed in the timeless arc in Sa. As the timeless arc transformation stopped, he also woke up. He took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement and agitation in his heart, looked up at the void, and slowly spoke. Eternal Mother God above, at this moment, the Permitha arc has reached the peak of the supremacy rank. There is no more room for improvement. The only way forward is to break through and advance to the immortal rank. The timeless arc's foundation has reached its peak. At this moment, the Permitha arc has advanced to the immortal rank and become the immortal timeless Arkansas. I hope that the Eternal Mother God will bless the timeless arc and help the timeless arc prosper forever. For powerful existences, just saying the other party's name would immediately be noticed. Therefore, under normal circumstances, one should not directly say the names of those great existences or even think about them, especially when they had evil intentions. This was because if one made a move, the other party would immediately be able to find one due to the connection of karma. Of course, if one was just an ant, the other party might not care about one. The everlasting lotus was naturally a supreme existence. To him, Fang Qingshan was naturally an existence similar to a Taowu. However, he was also the master of the timeless arc, which was equivalent to a direct descendant. Therefore, his heart moved, and the green lotus immediately sensed it. As soon as he finished speaking, the connection of karma was transmitted to a mysterious space in the depths of a boundless space-time. Then, in a split second, he received a response. Rumble. In the Tao chaos world, an indescribable aura was emitted from the reincarnation Tao field. Even though there was no pressure, everyone present felt suffocated. When the timeless arc was exposed, it exuded the aura of a peak god emperor. But at this moment, this aura was so strong that even an ordinary venerable emperor could not compare to it. Most importantly, this aura was qualitatively superior to a venerable emperor's. This aura naturally belonged to the everlasting lotus. Although he was only slightly stronger than ordinary venerable sovereigns, he did not completely surpass them. It was not because the power of the everlasting lotus was so little. On one hand, the place where the everlasting lotus was located was too far away from the boundless void and the myriad heavens and realms, so the power transmitted was limited. On the other hand, this was only the advancement of the timeless arc from the Supreme Master to the immortal realm. If not for the fact that Fang Qingshan's nirvana ship was mutated, it probably would not have reached the venerable emperor level. However, even so, this aura was so majestic that it caused others to gasp in amazement. It even alarmed the entire Dao sect. 1 statue, 2 statues, 3 statues. Apart from those who were cultivating in seclusion, almost everyone in the Dao sect showed themselves. What great Dao sect! They can still be so stable without an venerable emperor. They really live up to their reputation. 1, 2. Wow! There are more than 300 peak divine emperors, and there are many top divine emperors. Previously, when Fang Qingshan and the others were ambushed, the Dao sect sent out more than 100 peak divine emperors. At this moment, the situation was even worse. Because they were alarmed by the aura of the eternal green lotus, many people didn't know what was going on. They thought that someone had come to fight, so they directly manifested themselves. The number of peak divine emperors increased by more than 3 times. And this was not all of their trump cards. This naturally stunned the people who came to participate in the conference. Although this exposed the strength of the Dao sect, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. Originally, the conference was held to show off the strength of Jiang Bawang and Jiang Baowang. Although this sudden change was a little out of control, it was still within the plan. Apart from this, with the appearance of the aura of the everlasting lotus, a strange scene suddenly appeared in the sky above the Tao chaotic world, showing a wonderful space. No one knew where that space was. It seemed that it was not where the boundless void and the myriad heavens and realms were located. It was filled with endless purple chi, which was nothing to those above the divine emperor realm. But to those below the primordial chaos realm, it was like a treasure. That was because the purple chi was the foundation of the great path, the primordial purple chi. below the primordial chaos realm, it was almost a piece of cake to break through to the primordial chaos age realm. It could even be used to upgrade a primordial spiritual treasure to a primordial cardinal treasure. It could only be obtained by chance. But here, they were as numerous as the cabbages on the street, as numerous as the mountains and seas. Of course, although the primordial purple chi was not bad, it was only useful to those below the primordial chaos realm and even immortal realm. It was not that useful to divine emperors. Therefore, they naturally paid more attention to the center of the sea where the primordial purple chi had gathered. There was a gigantic green lotus there. Compared to it, Feng Qingshan's 99,000-meter-long eternal heavenly ship was like a small magician in the presence of a great wizard. It exuded the same aura as the timeless ark, but it was more ancient, profound, and heavy. It was an aura that would last forever. It was immortal and indestructible, like the origin of heaven and earth and the destination of all things. Even the destruction of the myriad heavens and realms would not cause any damage to it, let alone the desolation of heaven and earth and the chaos realm. Even if the origin world was destroyed, it might not be able to destroy it. Its existence was already an existence that could not be affected by external things. The everlasting lotus. At this moment, in the Tao chaotic world, although not everyone had seen it before, its name came to everyone's mind. They could not help but exclaim, then looked at the void with blazing eyes. The eternal green lotus was a unique existence in the truest sense of the word. It was also everyone's hope. The reason why many emperors in the boundless void and the myriad heavens and realms had not lost hope of breaking through was because they knew about the existence of the everlasting lotus. They knew that the path to the great path had not been cut off. Otherwise, they would have gone crazy. Chapter 16:10. The everlasting lotus, eternal blessing, opportunity, and good fortune. Everyone who saw this could not suppress the excitement, envy, and jealousy in their hearts. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell what was going on with just one look. After all, even if they had never eaten pork, they had seen a pig run. This kind of situation would only occur when the timeless ark leveled up. Moreover, when it leveled up, the everlasting lotus would not project itself. It would just directly descend to good fortune. In order to project itself, the timeless ark had to have a profound foundation. This was like an extra reward. Just like people, there were high and low aptitudes. The timeless ark was the same. There were deep and shallow foundations. Of course, if it was just a normal projection, it was not like they had never seen it before. At least they had heard of it. However, it was like what Feng Qingshan was facing. It seemed like the everlasting lotus had descended in its true form. It was the first time they had seen it. The reason why everyone felt this way was because they not only felt the supreme aura and might of the eternal green lotus, but they also felt a gaze directed at them. It was as if the everlasting lotus's gaze had crossed boundless space and time and was focused on the principal chaotic world. This was a bit incredible. The everlasting lotus. It was the only existence in the boundless void that had surpassed level 4. Even the dangerous places that could kill emperors, the river of time and space that was said to be able to trace back to the origin of the world, the great path that could allow one to integrate with the way. Although there were also legends that could surpass level 4 and break through to a higher realm. These were only legends. No one had ever succeeded. Although the dangerous places had the power to kill emperors, they did not give them the opportunity to break through. Although the river of time and space could go against the current to reach the origin, no one had ever succeeded. As for integrating with the way into the heavens, it was also a failure. Only the everlasting lotus existed. It was an existence that people could feel. It was an existence that surpassed the emperor level. It was because of its existence that people believed that the great path had not been cut off. It was not that the path could not be taken, it was just that it had not been reached. Therefore, the Lord of the Timeless Ark was the most special existence in the universe. If it weren't for the fact that obtaining the eternal lotus seed required luck, and that the master of the Timeless Ark couldn't be taken away, then the master of the Timeless Ark would have been dead long ago. Of course, there was also another reason. Even the Lord of the Timeless Ark had yet to surpass eternity. Putting all of this aside, the eternal blessing, the most miraculous creation in the universe, was an existence that surpassed the Emperor realm. Not many of the people present had seen it before. For many people, meeting the venerable sovereign was already a great benefit and a lifetime of glory, not to mention seeing the everlasting lotus, even though it was only a projection of him. However, this projection was different from the past. It wasn't an illusion, but an actual existence. Although the everlasting lotus was looking at the timeless ark, everyone felt like it was looking at themselves. Of course, compared to others, they only felt the projection and gaze of the everlasting lotus. However, for Fang Qingshan, he was once again there. Yes, at this moment, Fang Qingshan's mind was once again drawn from the universe by the everlasting lotus into the primordial origin. Although it wasn't the first time Fang Qingshan had come here, it wasn't the first time he had seen the everlasting lotus either. However, every time he came here, he had a different feeling. It was a feeling of transcendence. After all, the place where the everlasting lotus was located was the place that countless venerable sovereigns in the universe dreamed of reaching. Although he hadn't come with his real body, he was still extremely excited and sincere to be able to come here. Moreover, although every time Fang Qingshan came here, his cultivation base, realm, and vision all had a qualitative breakthrough, when he saw the everlasting lotus, he still looked up to it. It was an existence that could be seen but not reached. His mind unconsciously got closer to the everlasting lotus. If it had been anyone else, they would have been assimilated by the everlasting lotus in an instant, or they would have been destroyed. Of course, they had to be able to see the everlasting lotus first. This was a story to be told later. Or was it because Fang Qingshan's mind couldn't be compared to the everlasting lotus at all? Just think about what happened to those who tried to comprehend the venerable sovereign's sermons. It was easy to know what would happen to those who tried to pursue something beyond their ability. However, at this moment, Fang Qingshan didn't suffer any misfortune. Instead, he was instantly immersed in the boundless Taoist connotation of the everlasting lotus. For a moment, it was as if a supreme venerable was enlightening Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan felt as if he had been given a head-on blow. His entire body felt unprecedentedly ethereal and clear. Waves of mysterious Tao sounds rang in his ears. Some of the doubts that he had previously had were silently and directly answered, allowing his mind to be completely enlightened. There was a feeling of sudden enlightenment. His state of mind, understanding of the great path, and perception were all growing rapidly without him realizing it. Countless Taoist connotation laws, especially his understanding of the eternal mind's lamp technique, advanced by leaps and bounds. After all, the core of this Tao technique was the eternal lotus seed, the great path green lotus diagram, and even the eternal divine marrow. The reason for this was naturally because the everlasting lotus had specially rewarded him. To the eternal green lotus, even though Fang Qingshan was just an ant, an existence similar to a Tao Wu, he was still a part of the eternal green lotus. This was because although there were many timeless arcs, there was no lack of existences at the ancient or eternal level. But mutated, timeless arcs like Fang Qingshan's Permitha were rare. In particular, Fang Qingshan's Nirvana ship could be said to be the best of its class. It had almost reached the limit of its class. What was even rarer was that its speed of advancement was not slow at all. Moreover, generally speaking, the further one cultivated, the slower one's progress would be. Every improvement needed time to accumulate. But Fang Qingshan was different. His timeless arc improved faster as he progressed. Think about how much time it took to advance from Lingyun to unparalleled, and from unparalleled to supreme. How much time did it take to advance from supreme to supremacy? And how much time did it take to advance from supremacy to immortal? For such an existence, the everlasting lotus would naturally not be stingy with its rewards. It was precisely because of this that Fang Qingshan could travel spiritually to the primordial world and see the everlasting lotus up close. It was also because of the everlasting lotus's blessing that he was not killed by the boundless and unparalleled great path of the everlasting lotus. Of course, it was not a blessing in disguise. This experience ended quickly, and Fang Qingshan was directly kicked back to the myriad worlds. From the time he came to primordial world, to his enlightenment of eternity, to his return to the infinite void, everything seemed to have happened in the blink of an eye. Chapter 16:11. It was not enough. Fang Qingshan came back to his senses. Although he felt a little regretful, he knew that it was not a good thing for him to forcefully comprehend it. Moreover, although it was a short period of time, being able to see the everlasting lotus in 10,000 years was already a great fortune. Others would not have such a fortune even if they wanted it. It would be foolish to be greedy. Moreover, in this instant, although his realm and cultivation level did not increase by much, and the Divine Emperor chapter of the Heavens Tao verification formula was not much perfected, the benefits were not small. That was his visualization technique, the Great Tao Green Lotus Diagram, and, at the same time, the technique of the Eternal Heart Lamp. The former was a cultivation technique for his primordial spirit and nomological laws, while the latter was a new skill related to his stone gambling. The advancement of any one of these two cultivation techniques would be worthwhile, let alone perfecting them at the same time. It was definitely a blessing from a Mother Goddess. Moreover, although he would not be able to see the eternal Mother Goddess with his own eyes, there was another fortune waiting for him. Whoosh! Just as Fang Qingshan was kicked back into the infinite void, he saw a green stream of light shoot out from the everlasting lotus. It pierced through the infinite space and landed in the sky above the Tao chaotic world almost at the same time as Fang Qingshan. It reached the heavens and penetrated the earth, endless and supreme. The green divine light fell from the void like a heavenly pillar and completely enveloped the Nirvana Arkansas. Within the divine light, endless eternal power that surpassed the Emperor divine power entered the timeless ark like a tide. Rumble. Bathed in the eternal divine light, the eternal heavenly vessel that had stopped its transformation seemed to have been stimulated by something. Like the straw that broke the camel's back, it shook violently once more. As if it had a life of its own, it quickly expanded and grew. Crack, crack, crack. The eternal heavenly vessel, which had already expanded to its limit, began to emit cracking sounds once more. Following that, the eternal heavenly vessel, which had reached a length of 990,000 zhang, started to expand once again. 1 zhang, compared to the 300,000 meter and 300,000 meter increase from before, this change was simply negligible. However, the change brought about by this 1 foot was a qualitative breakthrough. Because of this, the timeless arc finally broke through its limits and went from paragon to deathless. The changes that followed were the aura and pressure. Previously, when the timeless arc manifested, it made people feel like they were facing a top-notch God Emperor. However, although that power was powerful, it was at most at the level of Chang Lu Shui. Although it was shocking, it was still acceptable. But at this moment, this power rose again. Although it was still at the peak of Divine Emperor, it was already comparable to Zhuge Jin, Sanbao, Shenhuang, and even existences like Taoist Yi. How could such a change not stun everyone? Not to mention the future, just the present was enough to shock everyone. He stared in shock at the Permitha that had been suppressing the ancient past. They felt that they could not muster any strength to resist. Thinking about it again, the timeless arc had just advanced to a mortal level, and it was already so powerful. In the future, when it broke through to eternal level, would it be comparable to Venerable Emperor? Would breaking through to eternal level mean that it could carry everyone's dream, truly transcend the universe, and trace back to the primordial origins? Thinking of this, everyone began to tremble. Breaking through to Overlord level, breaking through to level 4, and tracing back to the primordial origins. This was probably the dream of everyone who stood at the top of the pyramid of the universe. What a terrifying, timeless Arkansas. What a shocking foundation. I wonder how he did it. Yeah, I heard that Fang Qingshan just joined the Dowell sect, and even with the Dowell sect support, it's still a little hard to imagine. Could it be that he really can break through to Overlord level, leave the universe, and go to the primordial origins? Maybe. If it's really possible, then it'll be a great achievement. The crowd's discussion did not affect Fang Qingshan at all, nor did it affect the Timeless Ark's continued advancement. After the Timeless Ark broke through the shackles of 990,000 feet, it continued to grow. Although the speed was not as crazy as it was at the beginning, every 10 feet was a qualitative leap. This time, the reason why the Timeless Ark could usher in such a powerful transformation was thanks to the level 3 medium-grade spirit root, the Lotus of Bliss. With this item, the Timeless Ark could directly compare to the other immortal Timeless Arks 490,000 feet. It was more than double the previous 490,000 feet. Moreover, not only the Timeless Ark's main body, but the tower unit also had a few more floors. Apart from that, the other units also had a qualitative leap. In particular, the deck weapon unit that Fang Qingshan had focused on nurturing had a huge change, which was even more eye-catching. It could be seen that the Deadly Arrow Tower, Soul-Chasing Crossbow Car, Magic Tower, Cannon Turret, and Soul-Shaking Bell, which were originally conventional weapons, could not even compare to the weaker Other Shore Bridge, let alone unit weapons such as the Death Scythe and Chaos Bell. But at this moment, as Fang Qingshan integrated the refined crystal, black gold, soul stone, and other treasures of heaven and earth, as well as the world-breaking nail, soul-devouring sword, soul-suppressing bell, book of truth, 10-directional extinction, and other treasures, as well as the eternal evolution divine power, the deck weapon unit had undergone earth-shattering changes. In the face of those arrows, crossbow bolts, magic bombs, and cannonballs, everyone could clearly feel the terrible power contained in them. Even a god emperor in front of them had to deal with them carefully. Otherwise, if they were not careful, they might fail miserably. After all, although the deck weapon unit had improved by leaps and bounds, it was still not comparable to the eternal divine furnace unit. However, it was not a single-target attack weapon, but a group attack weapon that could cover a large area. Once the number reached a certain level, it could also lead to a qualitative change. In addition, the massed unit, sail unit, market unit, eternal divine furnace unit, every inch of space in the Timeless Ark had received a qualitative leap. Even the various creatures living in the Timeless Ark, such as the liches, angels, and Shuras in the sail unit, had received great benefits. Good. As the master of the Timeless Ark, Fang Qingshan could naturally feel the changes in the Timeless Ark the most. He could not help but say good 3 times. The immortal level. At this moment, the Timeless Ark had finally broken through to the true immortal level. At this moment, he finally had a foundation to settle down. Even peak God Emperor powerhouses could be matched, and even Zhugajin and Qian Duo could contend with it. Moreover, after reaching the immortal level, the next step was the eternal level, and then the eternal level. As for the resources and treasures needed to advance the eternal level of the Timeless Ark, he had already prepared 70 to 80%. After reaching the eternal level of the Timeless Ark, he was only 1 step away from the Timeless Arkansas. Chapter 16:12. When the Timeless Ark reached the ancient realm, Fang Qingshan would almost be standing at the top of the pyramid of all worlds and boundless void. Not level 4, not Venerable Emperor, but better than level 4 and Venerable Emperors. Even ordinary Venerable Emperors were nothing to him, let alone peak Divine Emperors or Half-Step Emperors. As long as they were not top Venerable Emperors like the Sword Emperor of the Storm or the Buddha of 6 Desires, with a mutated Timeless Ark, even if he could not defeat them, he could still escape. Especially now that the Timeless Ark had integrated the Freedom Wings, its speed was faster, and it was not bound by the rules. Moreover, judging from the current situation, as long as the Timeless Ark reached the ancient realm, it might really be able to suppress ordinary Venerable Emperors. After all, the power of the Timeless Ark was almost comparable to a Half-Step Emperor. when Fang Qingshan integrated several level 3 top supreme treasures, especially the amplification rule, the combat power of the timeless arc would increase by leaps and bounds. Even after integrating the more powerful level 4 supreme treasures, the power would be beyond Fang Qingshan's imagination. And this was only the ancient realm. If the stone gambling went well, he could find enough level 4 supreme treasures, and it should not be a problem for him to reach the eternal realm. At that time, he would truly stand at the pinnacle of the myriad of worlds, the pinnacle of the boundless void. He could compete with those great emperors of all times and the master of the timeless Arkansas. He could go to the two-realm battlefield, the emperor destroying natural disaster, the emperor burying dangerous land, and the river of time and space. With the arrival of the eternal blessing, the timeless arc broke the shackles. Although Fang Qingshan was happy, he did not relax at all. The timeless arc broke the shackles, and there was no need to worry about the next transformation. Now was the best time for him to use the eternal blessing to perfect the all-heavens Tao verification technique, Divine Emperor Part. Divine Emperor Part. Fang Qingshan was unprecedentedly excited. As long as he perfected the Divine Emperor Part, he could no longer suppress his cultivation and smoothly break through to the God Emperor level. Moreover, with the Divine Emperor chapter and the Eternal Blessing, once he broke through to the Divine Emperor realm, he would no longer be an early Divine Emperor, let alone an early Divine Emperor. He didn't have to spend time consolidating his cultivation base, nor did he have to waste time in the early God Emperor realm. Although it wouldn't be like the last time when he almost reached the peak of a mortal realm. However, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him to break through to the middle stage God Emperor realm. Don't be fooled by the difference between a mid-divine emperor and an early divine emperor. However, even geniuses like Jiang, Overlord, and Yi Daoxian would need at least hundreds of thousands of years to break through to the intermediate divine emperor realm from the early divine emperor realm, or even more. Although the thing that cultivators lacked the least was time, what they lacked the most was still time. The reason why they didn't lack time was because their lifespans were almost as long as the heavens. A nap could last for thousands of years, and a single seclusion could last them for thousands of years. They lacked time because even though their lifespans were long, comprehending the Grand Tao was similarly difficult. This was especially true towards the end, where every single breakthrough required tens of thousands of years. Moreover, in the competition of the Grand Tao, one step ahead, one step at a time. Being able to save hundreds of thousands of years, or even more, was a great thing for Fang Qingshan and anyone else. Therefore, Fang Qingshan had to wait for the eternal blessing and the Divine Emperor chapter of the All Heavens Tao confirming technique to break through to the next cultivation base. Sharpening one's axe would not delay the work of cutting firewood. As Fang Qingshan bathed in the boundless eternal divine light, his mind and willpower seemed to be in a boundless ocean of the Grand Tao. Endless comprehension gathered around him like a tide. This kind of comprehension was not only a new comprehension, but also the Grand Tao that came with the everlasting lotus. It also helped Fang Qingshan analyze and comprehend the Grand Tao that he had never comprehended before. Although this kind of comprehension was qualitatively different from when he was close to the everlasting lotus, it was still vastly different from when he was in the eternal heaven with the help of the Bodhi wood, the mixed element spiritual liquid, and other supreme treasures. It was like when one comprehended the Grand Tao, it was equivalent to listening to the teachings of the Venerable Emperor, while the eternal blessing was equivalent to being enlightened by the Venerable Emperor. Being close to the everlasting lotus was equivalent to listening to the teachings of an existence that surpassed the Venerable Emperor. The difference brought about by this kind of difference was naturally like the difference between clouds and mud. If one comprehended the Grand Tao on their own, the increase in comprehension would only be 3 to 5 times. Being close to the everlasting lotus, the increase would be 30 to 50 times. Although the eternal blessing was not as good as the Venerable Emperor's, it was more than enough. After all, This creation also came from the Taoist rhyme transmitted by the everlasting lotus. Even if it was just a bit of hair, it still depended on whose hair it was. The saying that plucking a hair was thicker than a leg was naturally a joke and an exaggeration for ordinary people, but for cultivators, it was a very normal thing. Not to mention the everlasting lotus. Even venerable emperors, divine emperors, and even Feng Shan could be called a treasure of heaven and earth by plucking a hair from it. Therefore, even if it was not as close as the comprehension of the everlasting lotus, the eternal blessing was still a supreme creation. It was the supreme comprehension of the everlasting lotus, the comprehension of heaven and earth, and the great path. It's starting. Feng Shan's heart skipped a beat. The framework of the Divine Emperor chapter of the Way Verification Method in heavens that he had already built a long time ago suddenly appeared in his mind. Not only that, but the various Divine Emperor level methods that he had obtained from other places in the Great Path Palace, the many wills that he had obtained from the Venerable Emperor ranking, the 2 volumes of the Venerable Emperor's teachings, and even the Emperor level will of the Great Path were all activated at that moment. Unlike what Feng Shan had done before, at that moment, the wills of the methods and comprehension of the Great Path were all perfectly analyzed. However, behind Feng Shan, one after another, countless figures emerged like bamboo shoots after the rain. Then, like a flash in the pan, they disappeared like meteors streaking across the sky. This scene was actually not unfamiliar. It was Feng Shan using his clones to constantly comprehend the various methods and great paths. Every method had been thoroughly tempered. If one wanted to truly comprehend the mysteries of the methods, they would have to be at a strategic position. For example, the cultivation of a divine emperor would naturally be able to comprehend the immortal and mixed path level methods at a glance. The other way was naturally to cultivate it personally, bit by bit, from nothing to something. Only then would the comprehension come more vividly. Only in this way could he truly find out what was useful and what was not suitable for him in this cultivation method. Of course, it was not just these methods. The Divine Emperor chapter that Feng Shan had created was also being cultivated at all times. Every time a new comprehension was integrated, he would cultivate it again. Only then would he be able to guarantee that it would not go astray and that it would be the most suitable for him. Of course, it was not easy to achieve this. Didn't you see that in the eternal heaven of the Great Path, Feng Shan had used all kinds of methods, but he had only barely built the framework of the Divine Emperor chapter of the Way Verification Method in heavens? Chapter 16:13. Now, with the eternal blessing, his comprehension ability had been improved to an unimaginable level, and his efficiency was much higher than before. If the previous comprehension was at the God Emperor level, then now, Feng Shan's comprehension was at the Emperor Venerable realm. As for efficiency, although he did not use the passing water lamp to change time, a moment of comprehension here was equivalent to 100 years of comprehension in the outside world. This was not just a change in time, but also an improvement in efficiency. After all, time was present. If one's comprehension ability was not enough, they would just be wasting time. It could be seen that bits of wisdom were extracted from hundreds of different cultivation methods and wills of the Great Path. They were integrated into the framework of the Divine Emperor chapter like rivers flowing into the sea, adding to the building blocks. Then, this new cultivation method was comprehended and cultivated by his doppelganger. He found the most suitable one, eliminated the unsuitable one, and then reduced and refined it. In this way, the Divine Emperor chapter was improved at a speed visible to the naked eye. For a moment, Feng Shan was immersed in a boundless sea of Tao. Of course, except for the Divine Emperor chapter, everything else was also improving and transforming. Cultivation, realm, Dharma power, primordial spirit, body, foundation, spiritual treasures, cultivation methods, divine skills, secret methods, because he had to create the Divine Emperor chapter first. Feng Shan's cultivation did not break through to the God Emperor level. But his combat power was still improved, because what he improved was Feng Shan's limit. Yes, with the help of the everlasting lotus, Fang Qingshan once again broke through his limit, expanded the capacity of his body, and could bear more cultivation and Tao. It could be said that in the past, Fang Qingshan was at most comparable to a beginner divine emperor. If he did not use the eternal heavenly vessel and the celestial chessboard, he might even be slightly inferior to Fang Qingshan when he used the Three Pure Ones technique. However, at this moment, although he was still at the peak of a mortal realm, even if he didn't use the supreme treasures or the Three Pure Uniting Secret technique, his comprehension of Tao and fighting capacity weren't weaker than those who had just reached the God Emperor realm. He was even stronger than them. This was the benefit of breaking through one's limits. Not only would one be invincible among those of the same level, they would also be able to challenge those of a higher cultivation level. Moreover, the more solid one's foundation was, the further one would be able to go. Although breaking through was very difficult, it was rare to encounter bottlenecks. Or rather, even if there was a bottleneck, it was only at the level of being impregnable. It was not like falling into an endless darkness where one could not see any hope. As long as one walked step by step, one would eventually break through the shackles and walk into a new world. Intoxicated. If one hears the way in the morning, one can die in peace in the evening. This was already the case for ordinary people, let alone Fang Qingshan, who was immersed in the eternal Tao. At this moment, he really wanted to be immersed in the great Tao for all eternity, hoping that he would never wake up again. This feeling was really great because the Divine Emperor chapter was being perfected at a speed visible to the naked eye, and he could also feel that it was getting stronger with every passing moment. This wasn't just an increase in cultivation and combat power, but also a change in the very essence of life. It was like a snake transforming into a flood dragon, and a flood dragon transforming into a dragon. What was even more precious was that he could feel the direction he was heading in and find the hope to move forward, to comprehend even more profound truths. This was the most delightful thing. Sometimes, despair didn't mean that there was no hope for a breakthrough, but that there was no path ahead or even no path at all. Then again, the change in the essence of life that was mentioned previously referred to the increase in the eternal divine marrow. Yes, every time Fang Qingshan made a breakthrough in the past, his bone marrow would have the accumulation of eternal divine marrow. It was also because of this that the eternal heart lamp had lamp oil. This time, the increase in the eternal divine marrow was unprecedented. He didn't know if it was because of the improvement in his cultivation or because of the eternal blessing. Fang Qingshan felt that the eternal divine marrow in his body was constantly being produced at an alarming rate, and this time, it wasn't satisfied with his bones. Instead, it started to spread out from his spine and began to expand to other parts of his body, including his bones, muscles, internal organs, blood, meridians, and acupuncture points. It was this bit of eternal divine marrow that filled every part of his body and fundamentally transformed Fang Qingshan's genes. This was why Fang Qingshan was so happy and knew that this was a change in the essence of life. One had to know that the physique section of the All Heavens Tao verification art required him to constantly use all sorts of treasures to temper his body, so that his physique wasn't any weaker than those of the top races. However, no matter how top the existences were, they were still existences that existed in the infinite void of the universe. They had never transcended beyond level 4 in heaven and earth. Although Fang Qingshan didn't, and this little change wasn't enough for him to transcend, there was a saying that if one didn't accumulate steps, one wouldn't be able to walk 1,000 miles, and if one didn't accumulate small streams, one wouldn't be able to form a big river. It was precisely with this little transformation that he could finally break through the curse of the infinite worlds. However, although this opportunity was good, it wasn't something that just anyone could endure. While his genes were being transformed and the eternal power was fusing with Fang Qingshan's origin energy, essence, qi, and spirit. Even though Fang Qingshan had a strong foundation, he was still nearly sucked dry in a short period of time. Fortunately, he had the eternal blessing to replenish himself. Otherwise, No matter how good the opportunity was, he wouldn't have been able to endure it. Of course, although the eternal blessing could make up for it, Fang Qingshan didn't completely rely on it. It wasn't that the eternal blessing couldn't be relied on either. Rather, if such a good thing could be replaced, it would naturally be replaced with something else. Every bit of good steel was used on the blade. Therefore, while the eternal power was being transformed, Fang Qingshan kept stuffing things into his mouth. Spirit wine, spirit fruit, spirit medicine, spirit medicine. As long as it could strengthen his origin energy, he threw it all in without holding back. He didn't have to worry about not being able to absorb it, nor did he have to worry about not being able to digest it. Gulp, gulp. In the principal chaotic world, at this moment, Fang Qingshan was the center of attention. Everyone was looking at him. To be precise, they were looking at the eternal blessing with bloodshot eyes. They looked like gamblers with bloodshot eyes. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva, wishing they could snatch it. Yes, almost everyone wanted to snatch the opportunity, including those peak divine emperors. It wasn't that they hadn't seen the eternal blessing before. At the very least, they had heard of it. However, they had never heard of so many eternal blessings. Most importantly, with so many eternal blessings, whether it was in terms of quantity or quality, it was an unprecedented opportunity, even for peak divine emperors. If they absorbed the eternal divine power, not only could they strengthen their foundations, but they could also make up for their foundation. It would also be greatly beneficial for them to break through to the Emperor Venerable realm. Chapter 16:14. Sigh, this is fate. The everlasting lotus is indeed the hope of all realms. If I can become the master of the timeless arc with the eternal blessing, I'm sure I'll be able to break through to the Emperor Venerable realm. That's not necessarily true. Not everyone is as capable as Fang Qingshan. When he was at the immortal level, he gave people the feeling that he was not inferior to a half-step Emperor Venerable. Yeah, I don't know how he did it. No matter how he did it, God has blessed the Daoul sect. Not bad, not bad. When Fang Qingshan's timeless arc advances again, the Daoul sect will be able to rise again. Looking at the eternal heavenly vessel and Fang Qingshan, who were enveloped by the eternal blessing, the spectators had mixed feelings in their hearts. Some were emotional, some were regretful, some were envious, some were happy, and some were afraid. There were all kinds of emotions. The others were easy to deal with, but the ones who were afraid were the previous actions against the Daoul sect, especially the martial Zenith sect and the eternal ancient heaven sect. They were the main forces that had attacked Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan hadn't been forced to stay in such a dangerous situation before, but had instead obtained great benefits for him. Now that he had improved even further, unless the entire sect was mobilized, no one would be able to stop him. Even if the entire sect was mobilized, they might not be able to stop him. For a moment, the people of the martial Zenith sect and the eternal ancient heaven sect were full of regret. If they had known that Fang Qingshan was so powerful and could advance so quickly, they would not have been willing to do such a laborious and unrewarding thing. He bitterly regretted working on the golden thread year after year, working for someone else, and becoming a stepping stone and fuel for Fang Qingshan. However, fortunately, the breakthroughs of Jiang Overlord and Yi Daoxian made them see that the Daoul sect's rise was unstoppable. They quickly stopped at the brink of the cliff and reached an agreement with the Daoul sect in time. Otherwise, if Fang Qingshan had broken through, it would have been too late. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. Speaking of which, the reason why everyone was so moved by the eternal blessing was because the eternal blessing was no small matter. As mentioned earlier, the eternal blessing was a unique opportunity that could only be found in the infinite worlds and the boundless void. In particular, the higher the grade of the timeless arc, the greater the good fortune that would descend upon it. For example, if the eternal blessing was devoured by someone else, they would not be able to survive. For example, Taoist Yi had only a 1% chance of breaking through to Venerable Sovereign. Although it was only 1%, the probability was already very high. After all, this was a breakthrough to Venerable Emperor. If the probability was high, the ratio of peak divine emperors to venerable emperors in the boundless void would not be less than 1 in 1,000. However, if he were to absorb the eternal God force, even if he couldn't raise it to 10%, he could at least raise it to 5%. Such a rate of success was even higher than taking the Heavenly Emperor's one-line sky or the Eternal Emperor pill. Moreover, there were no side effects. How could those peak divine emperors not be impressed? If they didn't know that the eternal fortune could not be snatched, and if they didn't know the consequences of snatching it, not to mention breaking through and dying on the spot, everyone present would have taken action. Even some people in the Tao sect would not be an exception. This had nothing to do with anything else but the Great Way. If they could prove their way, it didn't matter if they were father and son, husband and wife, master and disciple, or friends. The Great Way walked alone. This was not a joke. Therefore, in the face of such a rare opportunity like the eternal blessing, everyone was so moved. After all, there was no other opportunity in the universe that could compare to this. This was the gift of the everlasting lotus. Fang Qingshan had no idea what the others were thinking or what changes had taken place in their hearts. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care at all. At this moment, he was completely immersed in all aspects of the transformation. He didn't know how much time had passed. Perhaps it was a minute, a second, or 100,000 years, or even 1,000,000 years. At some point, Fang Qingshan's body shook, and a layer of mysterious golden cloud seal appeared all over his body. It was like a dragon or a phoenix, majestic and magnificent. Golden characters appeared on his bones, and spiritual tattoos formed in his internal organs. The most important thing was the change in his sea of consciousness. Light shot into the sky, heavenly sounds rang out, and golden lotuses bloomed, giving off a strange fragrance. Clearly, the Godly Emperor section of the Tao verification mantra of the heavens had been perfected. All of Fang Qingshan's comprehensions had evolved into this Tao book, and it was like a divine pillar that supported the heavens, suppressing the universe and the universe. A mysterious and profound aura spread out. At the next moment, a figure appeared without warning behind Fang Qingshan's head. It stepped on the universe, divided yin and yang, judged the 5 elements, severed karma, surpassed fate, isolated time and space, and followed by the Great Way. Great! Sensing this change, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but exclaim. Then, without waiting for him to do anything else, the figure behind him took a step forward and instantly integrated into Fang Qingshan's body. At the next moment, Fang Qingshan's body trembled, and a burst of aura surged. This was the cultivation that Fang Qingshan had previously suppressed. The moment the Divine Emperor chapter of the All Heavens Tao verification method was completed, he could no longer suppress it, and he broke through naturally. Of course, at this moment, Fang Qingshan could no longer suppress it. At the next moment, a commotion that was even greater than when Jiang Overlord and Eve Daoxian broke through was heard. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Then 1, 2, 3. Hundreds and thousands of chaotic worlds appeared in the sky above the principal chaotic world. Myriad worlds technique. Seeing this scene, someone couldn't help but exclaim. However, they immediately shook their heads and denied it. Because as the hundreds and thousands of chaos worlds manifested, another chessboard took shape beneath them. Then, a figure with an indistinct face appeared in the center. Holding a black and white chessboard in his hand, 5-color divine light illuminated the universe behind him. He stepped on the chessboard, and his body was surrounded by the myriad worlds. Blowing the conch shell, beating the drum, enshrouding the purple aura, accompanied by the great Tao, golden seal script, and countless scriptures were faintly discernible, covering the sky. Divine Emperor, late-stage Divine Emperor. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Regarding Fang Qingshan's breakthrough, no one was surprised. Moreover, they were also mentally prepared that once he broke through, he would definitely surpass the early-stage Divine Emperor and even surpass the early-stage Divine Emperor Jiang Overlord and the others. However, No matter how much they calculated, they still underestimated Feng Qingshan and the eternal blessing. They didn't expect Feng Qingshan's cultivation to almost cross a major realm again. Although it wasn't like the previous time, when he reached the peak of the late-stage immortal realm, it wasn't far off. In fact, even Feng Qingshan himself was a little surprised. According to his previous estimation, he should have broken through the peak of the middle-stage divine emperor. However, he didn't expect to cross the threshold of the late-stage divine emperor. Although it was only a step away, there was still a huge difference. And this change was naturally brought about by the eternal blessing. Chapter 16:15. For the everlasting lotus, every time the timeless arc advanced, he would bestow good fortune as a reward. However, this reward was also divided into levels, just like the rewards for people with different rankings. Those with higher rankings would naturally receive more and more generous rewards. Those with lower rankings would naturally receive lesser rewards. As for the ranking, it was naturally based on several aspects. For example, the level of the timeless arc was definitely higher than the eternal rank, and the eternal rank was definitely higher than the immortal rank. There was also the mutation, the depth of the foundation, and the speed of breakthrough. Although Feng Qingshan did not know why the everlasting lotus did this, it did not seem to benefit him. It was a completely selfless sacrifice. However, this was not something he could understand at this stage. Perhaps one day, when he broke through to the level 4, the Overlord rank, and went to the primordial origins, he would be able to find the answer. At this stage, he could only guess that the everlasting lotus's method was similar to the Sword Emperor of the Storm's sermon at Blessed Fate Mountain. Right now, he was just casually casting a net, casually placing a chess piece. If someone could really break through the eternal rank, go to the primordial origins, and grow to a certain height, it might be of great benefit to him. Of course, this was all in the future. As for Feng Qingshan's timeless arc, although its grade was not comparable to the ancient and eternal timeless Arkansas. However, his advantage was also very obvious. First of all, his timeless arc was mutated, or rather, its foundation was too strong. Although it was only at the immortal rank, it was not inferior to the eternal rank, and could even be said to be superior. Moreover, his speed of advancement was too fast. For others, it would probably take them 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or even longer to advance from the supremacy rank to the immortal rank. Even if they succeeded, they would not be able to compare to a tenth of Feng Qingshan's timeless Arkansas. However, not only did he use the shortest time, but he also achieved results that were several times, or even dozens of times better than others. Previously, the goal of the everlasting lotus was that if the timeless arc could really reach a certain level, it might be able to return the favor to him. Therefore, how could they not reward and support Feng Qingshan? This was also why Feng Qingshan had only advanced to the immortal level, but the eternal blessings that descended upon him were actually effective for peak divine emperors in terms of both quantity and quality, and could greatly increase their chances of breaking through to the venerable emperor realm. Of course, Feng Qingshan's foundation was also a part of this. If he hadn't broken his own limits time and time again, he wouldn't have been able to achieve such a transformation no matter how powerful the eternal blessing was. After all, no matter how good the opportunity was, you had to be able to grasp it. Indeed, with the eternal blessing, even a pig could become a canopy marshal. But this was the limit. However, if he was Sun Wukong and Zhu Wu, then under the eternal blessing, he could become the chaos demon ape and Pangu. Because of this, Feng Qingshan could once again make a breakthrough to the next level. However, after Feng Qingshan's breakthrough, the transformation didn't stop. The eternal blessing seemed to be endless. What Feng Qingshan and the timeless arc consumed seemed to be just a drop in the bucket, not worth mentioning at all. Therefore, at this moment, the timeless arc and Feng Qingshan turned into two black holes, doing their best to devour the divine power of creation. Although they couldn't break through to a higher level, they could use it to strengthen their foundation. The stronger their foundation, the easier it would be for them to make breakthroughs in the future, and after that, they would become even more powerful. It was a virtuous cycle. The stronger one's foundation, the more good fortune one would receive in the future. After absorbing it, one would become even more powerful, and the eternal blessings would become even more powerful. The cycle would repeat itself. For a moment, Fang Qingshan and the timeless arc were like dry sponges, absorbing the eternal blessing in a frenzy, as if they wouldn't stop until they were drained dry. The foundation that they had consumed to break through previously was once again strengthened at a speed visible to the naked eye, filling up. Although the barrier between heaven and earth was also silently multiplying, strengthening, and becoming more stable with every breath. But the road ahead became wider and flatter, and the light of hope became brighter. If anyone else saw such a bottleneck, they would have blacked out and fainted. Such a bottleneck, even if it wasn't as good as the great path being severed, was probably not much better. It was really too strong, and people couldn't even think of breaking through it. However, for Fang Qingshan and his timeless arc, they weren't afraid of the bottleneck at all. Quite the contrary, the stronger the bottleneck was, the happier they were. It was because the timeless arc needed the eternal blessing to complete the final transformation every time he broke through. With the eternal blessing, no matter what kind of bottleneck it was, at least in the boundless void, there wasn't any bottleneck. In front of him, it couldn't be the last straw that broke the camel's back. Quite the contrary, the stronger the bottleneck was, the more blessings and the higher the quality would be. At the same time, after Fang Qingshan broke through the bottleneck, he would get more benefits. For example, Fang Qingshan had broken through to the peak of late immortal realm. And this time, he had reached the late god emperor realm. Although he hadn't reached the peak yet, unconsciously, Fang Qingshan had sorted out all aspects of his cultivation base from the beginning to the end. He had consolidated and polished his foundation to make it more perfect and sturdier. There was no need to consolidate at all, and there was no need to worry about the loosening of his foundation. It would only become stronger and not weaker. With the endless eternal power, Fang Qingshan's cultivation base had broken through to the late God Emperor realm, and his foundation was constantly strengthening. If it wasn't for the fact that Fang Qingshan didn't dare to continue breaking through, lest his foundation become unstable, and that he wanted to use the eternal blessing to create other things, it wouldn't have been a problem for him to break through to the peak of God Emperor realm. It was the same for the Timeless Arkansas. After breaking through to the Immortal Realm, all the building units on the Timeless Ark also improved, transforming and evolving. Deadly Crossbow, Soul-Chasing Arrow, World-Exterminating Cannon, Magic Tower, Soul-Shaking Bell. The Eternal Divine Furnace expanded again and again, constantly transforming and strengthening, and emitting an eternal aura, which was getting denser and denser. Most of the units of the Eternal Divine Furnace had broken through to the third level. The Tower of Origin and the Eye of Last Days had broken through to the peak level 3. The Red Lotus of Fire and the Treasurefall Coin had also broken through to the late level 3. The Formation Breaking Drum of Beasts, Freedom Wings, Bell of Chaos, Great Void Armor, Jodion Star Formation, Nine Bends Yellow River Formation, Eternal Barracks, Life and Death Gourd, Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, Death Scythe, Bridge of Permitha, Passing Water Lamp. All of them were improving and transforming. Chapter 16:16. From the time Fang Qingshan's timeless arc manifested to the arrival of the eternal blessing, it seemed like thousands of years had passed, yet it also seemed to vanish in the blink of an eye. At a certain moment, the eternal heavenly pillar that connected the entire heavens and myriad worlds vanished with a swoosh. In the blink of an eye, the crowd could not even catch its shadow. If it wasn't because everyone on the scene had witnessed it with their own eyes, if it wasn't because Fang Qingshan's cultivation base had skyrocketed to the late divine emperor realm, if it wasn't because the Permitha heavenly ship had broken through the supremacy realm and reached the immortal realm, everyone would have thought that it was just a dream. Everyone had long since become accustomed to this. In the past, when they first learned about the everlasting lotus, it was not that no one had tried to use it against them. They wanted to use the timeless arc to advance and follow the path of the eternal blessing to the primordial origin. However, it was all in vain in the end. Whether it was normal prying, using karma, calculation, or other means, it was all useless. Over time, it was like going against the river of time and space. Everyone gave up. I've finally reached the immortal realm, the divine emperor realm. Sure enough, with my current cultivation, the timeless arc is more than 10 times stronger than before. If I encounter Chang Lu Shui again, I believe I can suppress him with a flip of my hand. Turning his mind back, Fang Qingshan's eyes flickered, and his entire body was covered in mist and auspicious clouds. With a slight sense, whether it was his body or the timeless arc, he felt extremely satisfied. As his body moved, the space around him emitted a sound that sounded like a rigid machine, as if the load was too great. Although Fang Qingshan was only a late divine emperor, with his combat strength, even a peak divine emperor like Chang Lu Shui might not be able to surpass him, but at least he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. There was even less of a need to talk about the eternal heavenly vessel. With just the slightest movement, cracks would appear in space. This was truly a sign that it couldn't bear the burden. Clearly, the power contained within the eternal heavenly vessel far surpassed Fang Qingshan. Even when compared to the likes of Taoist, it wasn't inferior in the slightest. Its entire body shone with a sparkling luster, resembling a bronze crystal jade. There were ancient runes carved on its surface. The hull of the ship pulsed as if it had a life of its own. Sigh, what a pity. We're back to square one. Amidst his joy, Fang Qingshan could not help but lament the gluttonous, timeless arc and the lack of resources. This time, Fang Qingshan could be said to have spent all his fortune on the advancement of the sky ship. Apart from the few peak level 3 treasures that he had kept, the rest of the treasures he had collected, including the sky ship itself, the countless heavenly treasures from the various inner worlds, countless skeletons, and even some level 1, level 2, and level 3 treasures were all integrated into the sky ship. The wealth that he had accumulated was instantly reduced to nothingness. It had basically been completely digested. The reason for this was that other than the consumption of the World Tree Avatar and Mosquito Dauren, the main reason was that the timeless arc's advancement speed was too fast, and there was too little time. Naturally, he did not have enough time, so he needed to consume additional resources to make up for it. There was also Fang Qingshan himself. He had broken through his limits time and time again, and his life essence had undergone a transformation. He also needed to consume source power to make up for it. Otherwise, he would consume his eternal divine power. The gains did not make up for the losses. However, all of this was worth it when compared to the gains. After the timeless arc's main body digested the mid-grade level 3 spirit root, the Elysium Lotus, its foundation, defense, and power, as well as its efficiency in absorbing the power of will, had greatly increased. The deck unit had also completely stepped out of the scope of conventional weapons. Although it was still not comparable to the Eternal Divine Furnace unit, the attack power of the Arrow Tower, Magic Tower, cannon turrets, ballistae, and soul-shaking clocks had also greatly increased. At the very least, they were no weaker than top-grade Level 2 treasures. Of course, the Eternal Divine Furnace unit had still improved the most. Not to mention the Origin Tower and the Eye of Age, as well as the Level 3 treasures that were integrated later on. As for the Death Scythe, Treasure-Fall Coin, Red Lotus of Fire, Bell of Chaos, Hibernation Pearl, and other treasures, they had all broken through to Level 3. The power, the destructive power, and the defensive power. Just thinking about it was enough to understand what it was like. In terms of attack power, it could suppress a peak divine emperor. In fact, if Fang Qingshan, the timeless arc, and the all-heaven chessboard were combined into one, it could even suppress an ordinary half-step sovereign venerable, like Chang Lu Shui, who wasn't very talented and didn't have any precious treasures on him. It shouldn't be difficult for him to suppress an ordinary half-step sovereign venerable like Chang Lu Shui. In terms of defense power, it was needless to say. An ordinary top-grade level 3 treasure might not be able to hurt the timeless Arkansas. Even if the 4 Ocean 8 Desolation sword recovered to its top-grade level 3 state, or the Emperor's Slayer Saber's shadow could break the ship's hull. However, as long as the timeless arc wasn't completely cut in half at the first moment, even if it was damaged or smashed into pieces, it could instantly reassemble and recover to its original state. What goes around comes around. It's just a matter of time. Thousand Years House, Eternal Heaven House, Martial Apex Sect, just you wait. I believe it won't be long before I bring you a big surprise. After feeling the changes brought about by the eternal blessing, Fang Qingshan narrowed his eyes, and 2 beams of cold light flashed in his pupils. Thinking about what happened in the Fallen Dragon's secret realm, where he almost died, one could imagine the hatred in Fang Qingshan's heart. Although the Eternal Ancient Heaven Sect, Martial Apex Sect, and Tao Will Sect seemed to have reconciled. But the sect was the sect, and he was himself. If he didn't take revenge, the thorn in his heart wouldn't go away, and it might even affect his future cultivation. Moreover, dealing with the Thousand Autumns Sect, Martial Apex Sect, and Eternal Ancient Heaven Sect wasn't just revenge, he could also harvest resources. Although stone gambling could bring him resources, it also came with a cost. This time, apart from a few level 3 treasures, he was truly penniless. Of course, this was all in the future. Although these changes made Fang Qingshan very satisfied, what Fang Qingshan was most concerned about wasn't these, but the new Eternal Divine Furnace unit of the Timeless Arkansas. After all, this was the biggest gain of the Timeless Arc, and it would affect the difficulty of the Timeless Arc's next advancement, and so on. The Timeless Arc has successfully broken through to the Immortal level. Moreover, there are 7 more Eternal units in the Eternal Divine Furnace, and new Eternal units can be integrated into it. The combat power of the Timeless Arc is more than 10 times stronger than before. It's like the difference between heaven and earth. If it can advance to the eternal level like this, you don't have to wait until you advance to Venerable Emperor. The Timeless Arc can directly suppress ordinary Venerable Emperors. Before Fang Qingshan could ask, the Thunder Emperor said proudly, his face full of excitement. "Sai, what a pity." Hearing this, Fang Qingshan wasn't as excited as the Thunder Emperor. Instead, he felt a little regretful. After all, compared to the last time when the Timeless Arc advanced from Supreme to Supreme, this time it was advancing from Supreme to Immortal. Whether in terms of quality or speed, it was even better. However, he didn't expect that the reward from the Everlasting Lotus would be the same as the last time, and it didn't meet Fang Qingshan's expectations. With the gap, it was inevitable that he felt a little disappointed and regretful. Chapter 16-17. The host will be depressed if you don't compete. The last time was just a special case. As if sensing the regret in Fang Qingshan's heart, the Thunder Emperor comforted Fang Qingshan instead. The reason why the Timeless Arc could obtain such great benefits previously was not because of its true strength, but because it was the first time something like that had happened to the Nirvana Arkansas. For example, the first cloud in Desolation turned into a red cloud, the first toilet turned into a primordial chaos golden dipper, the first copper coin turned into a treasure-dropping coin, and so on. Moreover, the Timeless Arc was promoted to the Supreme level when the Supreme level was not high, but its combat power was very strong, and its foundation was even deeper. The Everlasting Lotus was surprised and saw a glimmer of hope, so the Everlasting Lotus encouraged him to continue working hard. This time's award was normal. Moreover, the numbers 3, 5, 7, and 9 all represented a limit that was not so easy to break. However, you don't have to worry. If you can advance quickly like this next time, and your foundation might not be deeper, but if you can maintain the current situation, the Mother Goddess will definitely reward you generously. Obtaining 9 new Eternal Divine Furnace units definitely won't be a problem. Fang Qingshan was well aware of this, but he had made the biggest expectations before he got it. In the end, the results were not satisfactory, so he felt disappointed and regretful. However, this disappointment and regret were only a little bit. After all, 7 new units of the eternal divine furnace was already an unimaginable gain. Other timeless arc units, except for the first time when it was formed, when the everlasting lotus deliberately tilted its resources, which might exceed 3 units of the eternal divine furnace. Other times there were only 3 units. However, he had obtained 7 units, which was more than twice as many as the others. If he was still not satisfied, he would probably be struck by lightning. After sorting out his emotions, Fang Qingshan had to scratch his head for the next advancement of the timeless Arkansas originally. He had obtained a top-notch level 3 treasure from the Tao Will Sect's secret vault. This time, he had developed a new skill called stone gambling and developed 2 useful top-notch level 3 treasures. There were a total of 5 of them, but he did not expect that they would only satisfy half of the eternal divine furnace's requirements. In the end, Fang Qingshan had to fuse the skeleton with the timeless Arkansas. There were only 4 treasures left. However, when Fang Qingshan thought of his new stone gambling skill, he was completely relieved. This was only a top-notch level 3 treasure, not a level 4 treasure, so it was relatively easy to extract. The only problem was whether the treasures they extracted were suitable for the eternal divine furnace unit. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before he reached the Ancient One level. Now, the real trouble was the same as when he advanced to Divine Emperor. That was the cultivation method after breaking through to the Emperor realm, namely the Emperor chapter of the All Heavens Tao verification skill. Moreover, this difficulty was different from the Divine Emperor chapter. There was a world of difference. If the Divine Emperor chapter was difficult, then the Sovereign chapter was hell. After all, there were many deity emperors in the universe. Just the Tao Will Sect alone had hundreds of them. Naturally, deity emperor level cultivation techniques were not rare. However, venerable emperors were different. Although there had been many venerable emperors since ancient times, it was rare to come into contact with them and obtain their inheritance. In the entire Tao Will Sect, there was only one complete emperor-level cultivation technique. It was not that there were no others, but like the Infinite Worlds technique, they were all badly damaged. Although they were badly damaged, they were still emperor-level cultivation techniques. They had been collected by the Tao Will Sect over the years. God knew how much manpower, material resources, and financial resources had been wasted, and many people had even been sacrificed for them. After all, the existence of every emperor-level cultivation technique meant the birth of an emperor-level powerhouse. The treasures of an emperor-level powerhouse were probably something that everyone would fight for. Even for an emperor-level powerhouse, it was probably the same. Even if they could not use it themselves, their descendants and disciples could use it, and they could even use it to trade. Therefore, every time an emperor-level or level 4 treasure appeared, it would attract many powerhouses to fight for it. One could imagine how difficult it was to obtain it. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for Fang Qingshan to create the All Heavens Tao Verification Technique Emperor Volume. It was even more difficult than finding a level 4 treasure. Although stone gambling could not only result in treasures, but also Tao books. The probability of obtaining a Tao book was obviously much lower than that of obtaining treasures or treasures of heaven and earth. If the probability of obtaining a level 4 treasure was 1 in 10,000, then the probability of obtaining a Tao book was 1 in 100,000 or 1 in a million. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan had an emperor-level Tao intent in his mind, so he knew a lot about emperor-level cultivation techniques. Moreover, with the power of the immortal timeless arc and the strength of a late divine emperor, if he wanted to see the Tao Will Sect's emperor-level cultivation technique, Taoist EE and the others would not stop him. Moreover, in the Tao Will Sect, other than the Great Tao Palace, there were actually other places with emperor-level cultivation techniques. For example, Jiangshan's Mountain and Country Fist was a simplified level 4 cultivation technique. He had obtained the legacy of the Great Qian dynasty and even the level 4 treasures, the 4 Seas 8 Desolation Sword and the People's Umbrella. Although they were incomplete, this meant that the relic he obtained must be very complete. There was a high chance that the great Qin dynasty's emperor-level cultivation technique, the Qinyuan Dao Book, had fallen into his hands. There was also Pang Bo, who had obtained the legacy of the Fist Emperor and could even summon the Fist Emperor's imprint. There was a high chance that he also had a level 4 cultivation technique. Even if it was incomplete, it was still very useful to Fang Qingshan. Other than them, there were others who might have obtained emperor-level cultivation techniques. This was especially true for peak deity emperors like Daoist. Not to mention fortuitous encounters. Fang Qingshan didn't believe that they wouldn't scavenge emperor-level cultivation techniques to improve their chances of breaking through. Although the value of emperor-level cultivation techniques was immeasurable, it did not mean that they could not be traded. First of all, Fang Qingshan would need to take out treasures that could interest them. This shouldn't be too big of a problem, because he could gamble on stones and obtain precious treasures to trade with. After inquiring about the needs of those who possessed emperor-level cultivation methods, it would be very easy to satisfy them. Of course, the most important thing was that emperor-level cultivation techniques could be said to be important, but also unimportant. Of course, the so-called unimportant did not mean that they were worthless or of little value, tasteless, but a pity to discard. It was because when one's cultivation wanted to break through to the Emperor Venerable realm, it was like breaking through to the Mixed Essence realm. At this time, the Great Way walked alone. If one wanted to break through, he needed to walk a path that belonged to him alone. Therefore, Emperor-level cultivation techniques could only be used as a reference. In this way, he did not have to worry that others would be familiar with and master this cultivation technique, which would hinder him and target his flaws. In this way, there was a high chance that he could obtain them. Chapter 16-18. Thanks to the development of the stone gambling skill, Fang Qingshan would no longer be short of resources in the future. Moreover, he would be able to obtain many treasures. Some of them were things that he did not need, but there would definitely be things that others wanted. Others might be arsenic, but others might want them. Some things might be useless in his eyes, but they might be treasures in the eyes of others. Just like the demon vanquishing sword. However, even if one wanted to use treasures to exchange for an emperor-level cultivation technique. But first, one had to know who had it. It was all right in the Daoist sect. Everyone was from the same sect and was more united. As long as Fang Qingshan spread the news that he really had a treasure that others wanted, it would not be too much of a problem for them to trade. However, it was different outside the Daoist sect. An ordinary man's wealth was his ruin. Although an emperor-level cultivation technique could not compare to a level 4 supreme treasure, it was definitely not much weaker. Such treasures were always scarce. Once the news spread, those peak divine emperors who did not have emperor-level cultivation techniques would definitely swarm over like sharks smelling blood. Moreover, the most important thing was that if one had an emperor-level cultivation technique, did one obtain the inheritance of an emperor? Were there any level 4 supreme treasures, emperor stones, or other treasures? Therefore, most people would keep such things a secret. It wasn't an easy task to make a deal. Of course, it was not easy to create an emperor-level cultivation technique after obtaining an emperor-level Dao book. This was evident from the fact that many peak divine emperors had not broken through and were still stuck at the half-step emperor realm. In addition to other opportunities, the imperfection of the cultivation technique was also a very important reason. It was not that one could not break through without an emperor-level cultivation technique. It was just that if one had an emperor-level cultivation technique, the breakthrough would be smoother and it would be easier to consolidate. Moreover, without an emperor-level cultivation technique, the breakthrough would be more difficult and there might be accidents. If one was not careful, there might be the danger of qi deviation. The probability was not high. Unless there were special circumstances, such as when a building was about to collapse or when life was about to end, few people would take the risk and take the risk. Therefore, even if there was an emperor-level cultivation technique as a reference, It was not easy to create a cultivation technique, especially when it had to be suitable for oneself and perfect. The good thing about Feng Qingshan was that he had the eternal blessing, which greatly reduced the difficulty of comprehending emperor-level cultivation techniques. No matter how troublesome the emperor-tiered Taoist manual was, it was a matter for the future. There is no need for him to worry about it now. As the saying goes, if there's wine today, then let's get drunk today. If there's worry tomorrow, then let's worry tomorrow. At this moment, it was time to properly enjoy the joy of breaking through. Feng Qingshan had been looking forward to this day for a long time, because from now on, as long as he didn't court death and wasn't too unlucky, he could really rest easy. If a venerable sovereign didn't show up, who could compete with him? But just as the eternal blessing disappeared, another phenomenon appeared in the sky above the Tao Chaos world. Above the sky, boundless purple qi covered the entire Tao Chaos world. It was vast and boundless. One could faintly see a huge list that looked like a pillar of heaven appearing in the center, exuding a vast aura. Countless spiritual marks were engraved on it, and countless Tao wills were entwined in it. It was majestic and supreme. Big conches were blown, big drums were beaten, and heavenly music was faintly discernible. There was a jade maiden holding an incense burner, and a golden boy holding a sword. Purple qi and golden crows flew together, and the golden dragons were the same color as the earth. Wisps of auspicious light filled the sky and the earth, enshrouding the sky with seven-colored auspicious light. Golden lotuses bloomed, and countless seal characters flowed on the petals. Celestial music lingered in the air, describing the wonders of heaven and earth. This was a celebration of heaven and earth. They were happy that a genius like Feng Qingshan had appeared in the Dao sect. On the other hand, with Feng Qingshan's rapid progress, the Dao sect and the Dao list had naturally received great benefits, and their luck had directly increased by a large margin. Just like the celestial chessboard, although it was not as qualitative as the timeless arc, the benefits were not small. After all, they were treasures of luck. As long as their luck increased, they would also increase accordingly. This time, Feng Qingshan had broken through to the late-stage Divine Emperor, and the timeless arc had broken through to the immortal realm, which was comparable to a half-step Emperor Venerable. One could imagine how much their luck had increased. The Dao sect protected their safe growth, and when they grew up, they would naturally repay the Dao sect. As the saying went, those who saw it had a share. Just like the last time, the Dao sect disciples also received great benefits at this moment. Not only did their luck increase, but once those golden lotuses fell and were absorbed, one could save them a year's time. This was a flourishing age for all the Dao sect. Good Dao Xian, Overlord, and Qingshan. God bless our Dao sect. There's hope for our revival. There's hope for our revival. Just like the last time, the older the Dao sect's magnates were, the more gratified and excited they were, especially those peak divine emperors who came from the Dao sect's heyday. For example, Elder Tan, who guarded the heavenly dimensional gate. Of course, in contrast, another group of people did not look so good. This group of people was naturally the people who had previously targeted the Dao sect. From Dao Xian and Jiang Overlord, they had already seen the rising momentum of the Dao sect, soaring into the sky and unstoppable. If there were no accidents, it would be a great momentum, and anyone who went against the momentum would be crushed to pieces. That was why so many people came to congratulate him and reconcile with him. But they did not expect that they had still underestimated the Dao sect, or rather, underestimated Feng Qingshan's potential. How long had it been since he broke through to the immortal realm? And how long had the inner disciple competition ended? His cultivation had broken through again, and it was still a breakthrough, and he almost crossed a great realm again. What would those who were trapped in the early stage, middle stage, and even late stage divine emperors think? How could they endure it? Of course, it would be fine if he was only a late stage divine emperor. Although his combat power might be comparable to a peak divine emperor like Chang Lushui. Looking at the Dao sect, it was clear that peak divine emperors were not rare in forces like them. One more or one less would not make a difference. At most, they had great potential and had the possibility of breaking through to the Emperor realm. But the difficulty of breaking through to the Emperor realm was so great that it was definitely one of the most difficult in the entire heavens and realms. Otherwise, there were hundreds of peak divine emperors in the Dao sect alone, not to mention the entire boundless void. So many people would not have been trapped in this realm for so long. But the crux of the problem lay in the timeless Arkansas. It was just a breakthrough from the supreme realm to the immortal realm. Logically speaking, he should at most be comparable to an early-stage divine emperor. But unexpectedly, he was almost comparable to an emperor realm. This was simply destroying everyone's worldview. Chapter 16-19. They had seen their fair share of geniuses. The strength of the disciples of the top forces on the sovereign forces ranking was obvious to all. However, Fang Qingshan had crossed a whole realm when he broke through from chaotic element to immortal realm, and from immortal realm to divine emperor. Most importantly, Fang Qingshan had just joined a force like the Dao sect. It was hard for them to accept this. If that was all, it would have been fine. Not only him, but the Timeless Ark was also inhumanely strong. They had seen the Timeless Ark before. In fact, they were friends with many of the owners of the Timeless Arkansas. Some of their disciples had also had such opportunities. However, no matter what they saw, heard, or recorded, they had never seen anything as unusual as Fang Qingshan's Nirvana Arkansas. The immortal realm Timeless Ark was actually comparable to a peak divine emperor or even a half-step emperor venerable. This was a first in the universe. Putting aside the fact that he had never seen or heard of something like this before, he didn't even dare to think about it. However, it had now appeared in front of them. Now, they really wanted to know how Fang Qingshan managed to do this. Unfortunately, this was just a thought. Given Fang Qingshan's current cultivation level and the power of the Timeless Ark, if he didn't act, the level 4 treasure and the peak divine emperors wouldn't have a chance to kill him. Even if the emperor-level experts didn't act, they might not be able to kill him. Therefore, if they wanted to know how Fang Qingshan had done it, he definitely wouldn't answer if they asked. Force him? He couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't kill him. Fang Qingshan wasn't someone they could deal with at will. It was especially troublesome for the Eternal Heaven sect and the Martial Pinnacle sect, which had a direct feud with Fang Qingshan. Damn it, what should we do now? Now, if he attacked like before, there would be a war if he went back on his word, not to mention that he had just reconciled with the Dao sect. After all, the current Fang Qingshan was completely different from before. Previously, he was just a true disciple. Although he had potential and great potential, he had not been able to unleash it completely. If he died, then so be it. The Dao sect would definitely not fight to the death with the Eternal Heaven sect and the Martial Apex sect for him. However, things were different now. In terms of status, he dared not say that he was comparable to Daoist E, but compared to Zhuge Jin and the others, he was definitely superior. Moreover, what he had shown now was not just his potential. As long as Fang Qingshan's Timeless Ark broke through another level, the Dao sect would once again have a venerable sovereign. The difference between having and not having an overlord rank was self-evident. Naturally, they would not allow others to destroy it. Once they killed Fang Qingshan, the Dao sect would definitely go crazy. Most importantly, ordinary methods, or even half of the sect's forces, could not take down Fang Qingshan at all. Furthermore, even if they managed to take down Fang Qingshan, the losses they would suffer would be enough to make them suffer greatly. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fishermen would benefit. However, they had no choice but to solve the problem. After all, they had an irreconcilable feud with Fang Qingshan. In order to deal with Fang Qingshan, the three great commanders first followed him in the dark and laid an ambush. Then, they each brought their strongest trump cards with them. They could even summon the phantom image of the level 4 cardinal treasure, the Arch Slaying Saber. In the end, when they realized that their plan had failed, they sent another late divine emperor expert to try again. As for Chang Lu Shui, although they had not specially sent him, it was just a coincidence. However, Fang Qingshan would obviously blame this on them. In this way, their hatred would be even greater. This was also why many people were unwilling to offend geniuses. If they could not kill them in one go and eliminate them completely, they would become his stepping stone. Once he grew up and took revenge, the losses would be unbearable. Looks like we can only spend money to avoid disaster. The Divine Emperor of the Martial Apotheosis sect and the Mighty Miracle Divine General of the Eternal Heaven sect exchanged glances and could not help but smile bitterly. Especially the Divine Emperor of the Martial Apotheosis sect. Although he had come to mediate on behalf of the Martial Apotheosis sect, he also wanted to take back his 8-gem Ru-E umbrella. However, it was a pity that before he could succeed, another problem had cropped up. Not just the 8-gem Ru-E umbrella, but even more valuable treasures were needed. Congratulations to Taoist Fang Qingshan for breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm and achieving immortality for the Timeless Arc. Apart from the people from a Martial Apotheosis sect and the Eternal Heaven sect, after the advancement of the Timeless Arc, the people from the Tao will sect, and those who came to congratulate Jiang Overlord and the others had all arrived at the Reincarnation Dojo and congratulated Fang Qingshan. Of course, these people were all at the peak Divine Emperor realm. Although Fang Qingshan had just broken through to the late Divine Emperor realm, none of them looked down on him. They all greeted him respectfully and addressed him as Taoist. Congratulations, Taoist. You have another comrade in the myriad heavens and realms. Let's drink tea and discuss Tao when we have time. Talented people appear in every generation. The new generation will replace the old. These peak divine emperors congratulated him one by one. Regardless of whether they were envious or jealous of Fang Qingshan for breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm and advancing to the immortal realm Timeless Arc, or those who were excited and happy, or those who regretted their hard work, all of them expressed their joy at that moment. Those who did not know better would think that they were sincere. As they congratulated him, they took out one treasure after another with a tinge of pain in their hearts. These treasures were much more precious than what they had offered to congratulate Jiang Overlord and Jiang Overlord. After all, although Jiang Overlord and Jiang Overlord were not bad, they were still juniors in their eyes. They could just send them off with a red packet. However, Fang Qingshan was already standing at the same level as them. He might even have surpassed them. If the treasures he took out were too inferior, it would be a slap to their faces. Seeing this scene, Yi Daoxian and Jiang Overlord were speechless and shook their heads. Sure enough, different people had different fates. The purpose of holding this celebration for them was not pure in the first place. They did not expect that Fang Qingshan would steal the limelight in the end. Now, everyone was here to see Fang Qingshan. Who would still remember the two of them? However, although Jiang Overlord and Jiang Overlord were speechless and disappointed, they did not show any hatred. Jiang Overlord was easy to deal with. After all, he was the one who guided Fang Qingshan into the Dao sect. The stronger Fang Qingshan was, the more benefits he would gain. As for Yi Daoxian, he was the eldest true disciple of the Dao sect and the successor of the sect master. He had a strong view of the big picture. He knew that Fang Qingshan and the Dao sect were in the same boat. They were bound together for good or bad. Moreover, if it was just a small gap, they would not mind it. They could work hard to catch up. However, the gap between them and Fang Qingshan was too big. Even if they used all their means, Fang Qingshan could suppress them with a flip of his palm. Chapter 16:20. It was precisely because Yi Daoxian and Yi Daoxian were not the kind of people who were jealous of those with talent, and also because they knew that Fang Qingshan was in the same boat as them. It was good for him and good for them. It was just like how the reason why Jiang Overlord broke through so quickly was also because of Yi Daoxian's breakthrough. Under the influence of karma, Jiang Overlord also broke through. To them, Fang Qingshan's breakthrough was also not insignificant. On the other hand, Fang Qingshan's breakthrough strengthened the overall strength of the Dao sect, and he might become an emperor venerable in the future, and he might become their backer. It was good to be under a big tree, and if the sky collapsed, there would be someone to hold it up. On the other hand, with Fang Qingshan's breakthrough, their luck also increased, and in the future, they would get twice the result with half the effort. Of course, the most important thing was that they realized the gap between them and Fang Qingshan. If the gap between them wasn't too big, then with their temperament, they naturally wouldn't admit defeat so easily. Instead, it would stimulate their fighting spirit and make them strive to catch up. But the gap was the great Dao, and the most important thing was the speed of Fang Qingshan's advancement. What was the situation when Jiang Overlord met Fang Qingshan for the first time? Fang Qingshan was only at the mixed essence realm, and he was being hunted, while Jiang Overlord was already at the peak of the immortal realm. And now, how long had it been? Jiang Overlord had just broken through to the early stage God Emperor, and Fang Qingshan had also broken through, and he was at the late stage God Emperor. Such cultivation, such combat strength, and such a speed of breakthrough made the two feel like they were looking up to a great mountain, and they naturally gave up on the idea of competing. Therefore, at this moment, they had no other thoughts, and were simply happy and proud that such a genius had appeared in the Dao sect. They felt this way, and the other disciples of the Dao sect naturally felt the same, especially those who had obtained the creation because of Fang Qingshan's breakthrough. They could not wait for this to happen every day. Great, the last creation saved me decades of hard work, and this time, I've saved decades of hard work. I feel like I'm about to break through. If this happens a few more times, I don't think cultivation is so difficult. A few more times? You must be daydreaming. I don't think it's impossible. With senior brother Fang Qingshan's speed of advancement, he might be able to make a breakthrough before we break through. As soon as he said that, everyone fell silent. After a while, someone sighed with emotion. Yeah, when comparing goods, you have to throw them away. Most importantly, senior brother Fang Qingshan's advancement speed is so fast, yet his foundation actually hasn't shaken in the slightest. Instead, it's unbelievably firm, and there's probably no one in the entire Dao sect who can compare to him. That's true. Just by looking at his immortal rank timeless arc, you can tell a thing or two. It's really hard to imagine. Permitha, what a powerful pressure. Even a strand of its aura can suppress an ordinary immortal rank timeless Arkansas. It's too terrifying. Just a glance at it makes my heart beat wildly. Same to you. Thank you very much. In the future, I hope that the Taoist will not be stingy with his teachings. Fang Qingshan didn't know about the sentiments of his fellow sect members. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. At most, he would just laugh it off. However, Fang Qingshan didn't dare to neglect the congratulations of the other peak divine emperors. Since they were giving him face, Fang Qingshan naturally wouldn't reject them. Even when facing the martial apex sect and the eternal heaven sect, he behaved as if there was no barrier between them. This made the people from the Dao sect feel relieved, and the others also looked up to him. At the same time, the people from the martial apex sect and the eternal heaven sect felt a chill in their hearts. A gentleman could be deceived. Why was it that sometimes people would rather offend a gentleman than offend a villain? Because it was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to guard against an arrow in the dark. No one would be afraid of fighting in the open, and even if they lost, they would be willing. However, they were afraid of people hiding in the dark like a poisonous snake, ready to deal a fatal blow at any time. Even if they didn't make a move, the feeling of having a dagger on one's back was uncomfortable. Thinking about the deep hatred between them and Fang Qingshan, how could the three treasures divine emperor and the others not be shocked when he was still so calm at this moment? Therefore, they looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. If one step was wrong, they couldn't make any more mistakes. After returning to the sect, they had to convince the higher-ups as soon as possible to end their karma with Fang Qingshan. Otherwise, it would be too late for regrets. The celebration that the Dao sect had specially organized for Jiang, Overlord, and the others had ended. Although there were unexpected complications, the result was good and very good. Once the news spread, it instantly caused a stir in the entire universe. First, it was naturally because of Fang Qingshan's strength. He had a late divine emperor cultivation and the battle prowess of a peak divine emperor. As the owner of the immortal timeless arc, the battle prowess of a peak divine emperor was comparable to a half-step emperor. A peak divine emperor was the mainstay of a large force, not to mention a half-step emperor. Especially when this half-step emperor had great potential and had a chance to become an emperor, the deterrence was even greater. If an emperor did not appear, who could compete with him? Even the Heavenly Evil Clan, Saint Buddha Clan, Primordial Immortal Clan, and even the people of the Void Tower and the All-Heaven Alliance were no match for him. With him, although the Dao sect was not as strong as when the Emperor-level Old Ancestor was in charge, it could be counted as having a bright future. For a moment, everyone had a higher opinion of the Dao sect. The entire Dao sect was showing signs of prosperity, and its overall strength was steadily returning to its peak in the past. On the other hand, everyone was very interested in the immortal timeless arc that Fang Qingshan had displayed the battle prowess of a peak divine emperor in the immortal level. In this regard, Fang Qingshan did not hide it. Firstly, it was not necessary, and secondly, he could not hide it, because as long as he used it a few more times, people would be able to roughly guess it. He straightforwardly explained how he had strengthened the foundation of the timeless Arkansas. Then, everyone fell silent, but in their hearts, they cursed Fang Qingshan half to death. Good heavens, when he was at the supreme level, he had integrated a medium level 3 spirit root and a medium level 3 supreme treasure. When he was at the immortal level, he was going to integrate a peak level 3, and when he was at the eternal level, he was going to integrate a level 4 eternal divine furnace units. 9 were at the Ling Yin level, 3 were at the supreme level, 5 were at the supreme level, and 7 were at the supreme level. After knowing this, everyone could not help but feel dizzy, thinking that it was no wonder. However, with resources, even if they piled up, they would probably be able to directly accumulate the cultivation of a few people to the peak divine emperor level, just like the few big families in the merchant chaotic world. For most people, it was a reckless waste of God's resources, and the gains did not make up for the losses. Of course, the premise of all this was that they did not have the timeless arc, and the probability of breaking through to the emperor level was too small. They did not know that Fang Qingshan had the all-heaven chessboard and was a little expert in collecting treasures. If they were in Fang Qingshan's position, they would probably make the same choice. Chapter 16:21. That's too much. After knowing how Fang Qingshan made the newly advanced immortal timeless arc comparable to the peak eternal timeless Arkansas, after everyone cursed at the reckless waste of natural resources, they shook their heads and no longer paid attention to it. Because Fang Qingshan's approach was not universal at all. Not everyone could take out nearly 10 level 3 supreme treasures at the immortal stage, and these level 3 supreme treasures were all of high quality. Not to mention ordinary rogue cultivators, disciples of small forces, and disciples of big forces. Even the seed heirs of top forces would find it difficult to do so, unless they used all the power of their sect. However, this kind of situation was only possible when the sect was facing the situation of collapse. This was also the reason why the Dao sect paid attention to Fang Qingshan in the first place. They wanted to use all the power of the sect to help him soar to the sky and advance to the eternal realm, comparable to the Emperor realm. Unfortunately, they had not encountered such a situation. Before they could do anything, Fang Qingshan soared to the sky on his own. He did not need to borrow the wind at all. Speaking of which, under normal circumstances, even the sect master could not mobilize all of the sect's resources, but most of the resources were for his own use. First, this kind of development was a bit abnormal and not in line with the strategy of sustainable development. Moreover, people were selfish. When there was no external force and no threat, why should you be the one to enjoy these resources and not me? Even if they knew that they could not reach that height. But it was precisely because of this that they could not let the other party soar higher, not worrying about scarcity. This was one of the reasons. The second reason was that the future of Feng Qingshan's timeless arc was basically cut off. It was absolutely impossible to reach the eternal realm, because according to his advancement method, he needed to integrate a level 3 supreme treasure to advance to the eternal realm, and a level 4 supreme treasure to advance from the eternal realm. The preciousness of a level 4 supreme treasure was naturally self-evident. They did not know that Feng Qingshan had the skill of stone gambling. From a universal point of view, Feng Qingshan had absolutely no chance of success. Unfortunately, this was just their wishful thinking. Feng Qingshan's way of doing things was not good or bad, right or wrong. It was just that the point of view was different. If they were in Feng Qingshan's shoes and knew what he had, they would do the same thing without hesitation. Although everyone knew that Feng Qingshan's timeless art could only reach the ancient era, no one dared to underestimate him. This was because Feng Qingshan's eternal timeless arc was comparable to, or even better than, many eternal timeless arcs. Feng Qingshan did not know how the outside world was talking about him, nor did he care, because he had more important things to do at this moment. After sending off the people who came to congratulate him and dealing with Taoist Yi, Zhugajin, and the others, Feng Qingshan once again sealed the reincarnation dojo. The seclusion was not over yet. It was not that Feng Qingshan had just broken through and his realm was unstable, so he still needed to consolidate his cultivation base. Instead, Feng Qingshan was planning to make further efforts and fuse the 5 peak level 3 supreme treasures, the skeleton of a peak divine emperor, the aura of illusion, the amplification law, the flying god claw, and the true spirit fishing rod into the eternal sky ship. That way, even though he was still lacking a few treasures, and the heaven vessel wouldn't be able to break through the boundaries of the ancient era so quickly, its power would still increase greatly once more. If the timeless arc was only comparable to a peak divine emperor when it had just broken through, then after integrating these treasures, especially the amplification law, the timeless arc would definitely be comparable to a half-step emperor. At that time, he would be one with the treasure. Even if he could not surpass the boundary of the emperor tier, his combat power would definitely soar. To Feng Qingshan, this not only meant that he was one step closer to the Great Tao, but it also meant that his strength, safety factor, and trump card had improved. As the saying goes, a bird in the hand is worth 1,000 birds in the bush. Although the treasures were good, although there were many resources, but only after using them to enhance one's cultivation base and combat strength could one make the best use of them and become one's own. Otherwise, if one died, it would be a waste or even a benefit to one's opponent. Moreover, only by becoming stronger could one fight for more and better resources. The strong would always be strong. This was also why there was a saying that as long as the saints did not die, the great thieves would not stop. Unfortunately, it was unknown whether it was because good fortune was accompanied by disaster, or because flowers could never bloom for 1,000 days, people could never be happy for 100 days, or for some other reason. Recently, Feng Qingshan's luck had been on the rise, but now it was declining. This time, it was just an ordinary integration, as simple and safe as meditation, but it almost made Feng Qingshan suffer a big loss. Reincarnation Dojo, in the core space of the timeless Arkansas, Feng Qingshan took out the 5 treasures and did the same thing. However, the eternal divine furnace shot out a beam of light that was like a roll of silk, dragging the 5 treasures back into the furnace for integration. At that time, everything in the timeless arc would be strengthened again. However, at this moment, something strange suddenly happened. However, at the moment when the eternal divine furnace shot out a beam of divine light, a light shadow suddenly separated from the amplification nomological law. Looking closely, it was a human figure. Although it looked a little illusory, like a cloud of smoke, as if it could be blown away by the wind. It gave off a feeling of decline. This was an old man who seemed to be at the end of his life, and he seemed to be on the verge of death. His face was full of wrinkles, and his long hair was gray. However, it was this seemingly unreal old man who seemed to be at the end of his life and had one foot in the coffin that gave people a great sense of threat and shock. This was because his aura alone was enough to shock the world. It was filled with an ancient aura and boundless power. However, as soon as it appeared, the beam of light shot out by the eternal divine furnace was directly fixed in mid-air. Fang Qingshan was shocked. Even though he had broken through to the late divine emperor realm and his combat power was comparable to that of an ordinary peak divine emperor. However, in front of this old man, Fang Qingshan still felt a fatal threat. Facing him, he did not even have the thought of escaping, let alone resisting. An emperor-level expert. Fang Qingshan was no stranger to this. This was because he had seen many emperor-level experts with level 4 strength. Whether it was the Four Seas 8 Desolation Sword, the People's Umbrella, or the Phantom's Emperor-Slaying Saber, the Great Ancestor, the Fist Emperor, the Sword Emperor of the Storm at his peak, the Tao Will List, and so on. Right now, the aura that this old man exuded was exactly the same as theirs. Obviously, this person was a venerable emperor, although this venerable emperor did not seem to be in a good state. Not to mention, compared to the Sword Emperor of the Storm at his peak, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. At least, the Phantom of the Fist Emperor that Pang Bo summoned was much weaker than him. This was somewhat similar to the Emperor-level Great Ancestor of the Tao Will List. It should not be a phantom imprint, but a doppelganger. Chapter 16:22. Who is he? Why is he here? What does he want to do? After realizing that this was an emperor-level expert, Fang Qingshan reacted immediately, and 3 questions appeared in his mind. An unprecedented sense of danger welled up in Fang Qingshan's heart. Before Fang Qingshan's primordial spirit could react, his body had already moved instinctively. In the next moment, the all-heaven chessboard, the timeless arc, and the mirror of reincarnation moved at the same time. Unfortunately, it was unknown whether it was because Fang Qingshan acted too late, or because the emperor-level expert was too powerful, or because of other reasons. Everything was in vain. Freeze! The mysterious emperor-level expert gave a light shout, and a beam of divine light burst out from his body. In the next moment, whether it was the mirror of reincarnation, the all-heaven chessboard, or the timeless arc, all of them seemed to have lost control and became motionless. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan's eyes widened and his eyeballs almost fell out. His face was full of disbelief. It was not that he did not believe that an emperor-level expert could do this, but the scene was too familiar to him. Last time in the Fallen Dragon's secret realm, when he was facing Chang Lushui, he wanted to use the all-heaven chessboard to escape. Originally, he treated it as a life-saving trump card, which he thought was foolproof, but it was broken as soon as it was used. Just like when the green-robed old ancestor participated in the Battle of Xiun Temple in Shushan. After refining the golden silkworm goo, he thought that he could obtain anything in this vast world. Unexpectedly, Blissful Boy's heaven and earth needle was like a stick to his head. Not only did it knock him out, but it also almost killed him. It was the same for Fang Qingshan. Last time, the all-heaven chessboard was not of a high grade, and his cultivation was not high enough. The gap between him and Chang Lushui was too big. But this time, the timeless arc had advanced to the immortal realm and was comparable to a peak divine emperor. Fang Qingshan had also reached the late divine emperor realm and had the battle strength of a peak divine emperor. He thought he could rest easy, but he was hit in the head again. Emperor level was indeed not to be underestimated. The gap between God Emperor Realm and Emperor Realm was even bigger than the gap between peak of Immortal Realm and peak of God Emperor Realm. It wasn't something he could ignore. Although Fang Qingshan had seen a lot of Overlord-level power, he had only really faced it head-on during the intersect competition when Pang Bo had the Fist Emperor's imprint. But at that time, Putting aside whether the Fist Emperor was comparable to the person in front of him, Pang Bo's cultivation alone was limited. Furthermore, the Fist Emperor was just a phantom, while the person in front of him was a soul clone. They cannot be compared at all. Therefore, in the face of an Emperor-level backup, Fang Qingshan was instantly defenseless. Stiffening. Numb. He couldn't move his body at all. It was a kind of suppression that originated from his soul and the deepest part of his body. It was like a crow facing a three-legged golden crow, a flood serpent facing a true dragon, and an ordinary tree facing a world tree. This was the suppression brought about by the fundamental difference in life levels. Overlord class was different after all. Before the Overlord level, it was still common to challenge people at a higher level. Origin Realm experts could counterattack Immortal Realm experts, and Immortal Realm experts were comparable to Divine Emperors. But it was not so easy for Divine Emperors to escape from Venerable Emperors. Even a top half-step Venerable Emperor had a very small chance of escaping from an ordinary Venerable Emperor. Of course, this referred to Venerable Emperors at their peak, not like this semi-disabled Emperor-level expert in front of him. If Fang Qingshan had been more careful and not been so careless, he probably would not have been so easily hit. After all, his immortality, and the timeless arc were not just for show. If they worked together, it would not be difficult for them to even be comparable to a half-step Venerable Emperor, and a semi-disabled Venerable Emperor, even if it was a Venerable Emperor, would not be able to defeat him at his peak. At least, it would take a lot of effort. Unfortunately, after all, Fang Qingshan's cultivation had advanced to the late-stage Divine Emperor, and the timeless arc had advanced to the Immortal Realm. He had been careless and arrogant. In fact, it was not that he had been careless and arrogant. After all, who would have thought that something would happen in his Taoist field in the Taoist sect? And the cause of the accident was that there was such an old monster hidden in the amplification law, and it was an Emperor-level expert. It should be known that this thing was not obtained by Fang Qingshan from other secret realms, danger zones, or relics, but from the Tao Will Sect's secret vault. It was said that it was collected by the Tao Will Sect's ancestor. Moreover, although this old man seemed to be dying, the key was that he was a venerable emperor. Even if this venerable emperor was already semi-disabled, he was still a ferocious tiger, even if he died, not to mention that he was still alive. Naturally, Fang Qingshan would fail miserably in an easy task. Otherwise, with Fang Qingshan's ability, no matter how bad he was, he could have had a sudden inspiration and a spiritual sense to warn him in advance. However, this time there was nothing. Everything happened so suddenly and quickly. At the same time, it also taught Fang Qingshan a lesson. The Great Way was difficult. On the path of cultivation, a little carelessness could lead to death. Not to mention that he had not yet broken through to the Emperor level, and the timeless arc had not yet broken through to the ancient realm or the eternal realm. Even if he broke through in the future, he must not be careless. Because even if it was the timeless arc, there had been many Emperor-level experts who had fallen over countless years. This time was a lesson. Yes, this time was also a lesson. Although Fang Qingshan did not react in time and was caught off guard, although the timeless arc, the celestial chessboard, and the reincarnation mirror were all restrained, as if he had become a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. But he did not show a look of panic or fear. For one thing, Fang Qingshan's own willpower and temperament were very good, polished to the point that he would not change his expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, and he would not blink when an elk moved to his left. Of course, the most important thing was that this time was different from the last time. This time, he still had a trump card. An Emperor-level expert was indeed terrifying, and only an Emperor-level expert could fight against an Emperor-level expert. And it just so happened that Fang Qingshan had such power. The Great Way, success is because of you, and failure is also because of you. Starting from scratch, I must conquer you. After so many years, I have finally waited for this day. My painstaking efforts have not been in vain. The old man opened his eyes. His eyes were a little cloudy, but they also emitted a ray of light. At that moment, Fang Qingshan had a feeling of suffocation. There was an indescribable tremor that emerged from the deepest part of his soul and swept through every part of his body. After restraining Fong Qingshan's resistance and suppressing Fong Qingshan's movement, the old man sighed, and then his eyes fell on Fong Qingshan. For no reason, it made Fong Qingshan feel a kind of creepy feeling, as if his whole body was clearly seen through, without the slightest secret. The old man did not immediately take action, but looked up and down at Fong Qingshan and asked with interest, "Why are you not afraid? Begging for mercy?" Chapter 16:23. Afraid? Beg for mercy? Fong Qingshan said expressionlessly. "Is it of any use?" Fong Qingshan sneered in his heart. He couldn't help but think that he wasn't at the end of his rope yet. Even if he begged for mercy, would the old man let him go? Indeed, it's useless. The old man nodded and praised him. "Not bad, you're not bad. Whether it's in terms of temperament, talent, luck, opportunities, etc., you're good in all aspects. In the same realm, I'm afraid even stronger people can't compare to you, let alone me. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you want?" Fong Qingshan ignored the old man's praise and asked the questions in his heart. The first two questions in particular really puzzled Fong Qingshan no matter how hard he thought about it. After all, this was the Daowul sect, and this item was obtained from the Daowul sect secret vault. In the end, it wasn't an opportunity, but a killing blade. If it weren't for the fact that he still had other trump cards in his hands, it would have been too much of a waste if Fong Qingshan were to die at this moment when his cultivation was about to break through and he was about to reach the Dao. It was hard to tell if it was because he felt that Fong Qingshan was not a threat to him, or because he had been silent for too many years and wanted to find someone to talk to, or because victory was already in his grasp, or because of other reasons. The old man did not continue to attack. Instead, he remained calm and composed as he answered Fong Qingshan's question without hiding anything. "You should know my name. I'm the Xingyi Great Emperor." The Xingyi Great Emperor's turbid eyes were unfocused as he looked at the void. He seemed to be reminiscing about the past as he spoke. "As for why it's here, it's actually very simple. It's because this law originally belonged to me. I risked my life to cut it down from the great Tao source of the heavens." Fong Qingshan didn't do anything else. He just listened quietly to the Xingyi Great Emperor's words. It was as if he was talking to himself and reminiscing. At the same time, he nodded to himself. He was even more shocked. This amplification law was actually cut down from the great Tao source. This showed how powerful this person was in the past. He must be a peak great emperor. Not even the Daowul sect's patriarch could compare to him. He was right when he said that he had heard of his name. Fong Qingshan had indeed seen records of him in the Great Path Palace, but they were few and far between. In the myriad of worlds, the Emperor realm reigns supreme, and the Tao is endless. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's because of the heavens and earth, the laws, or some other reason, but ever since the heavens was formed, no matter how talented the existences were, they've always been stuck at the peak of the Emperor realm, unable to advance. At this level, he was already standing at the peak of the void, unable to advance any further. For a short period of time, you will be able to enjoy boundless glory. But as time goes on, an epoch, an eon, and countless years pass, and you still can't break through. That's a feeling that a young man like you can never understand. The Xingyi Great Emperor glanced at Fong Qingshan and shook his head. He paused for a moment before continuing. "Back then, it was the era of beasts. Although I wasn't the strongest or the most brilliant existence of that era, I rarely lost." At this point, the Xingyi Great Emperor was very confident. However, it wasn't just me. Even the strongest myriad beast Great Emperor, who gathered the power of 10,000 beasts, the providence of 10,000 beasts, and the flow of the entire era, couldn't break through. At this point, the Xingyi Great Emperor's voice slowed down and became dispirited. So, some people chose to give up. After all, being undying and indestructible was also supreme. As the saying goes, a monk strikes a bell for a day. Today there's wine. Today there's wine. Some people chose to hide in space-time and fall into a deep sleep, waiting for opportunities and opportunities, waiting for the right time to move. Some people weren't willing to give up. In the struggle of the great Tao, there was no retreat. Only by continuing to advance bravely could they break through the boundaries of the void, become stronger, and even transcend the limits of the void. So, they chose to face difficulties and be unyielding. I'm like that. For this reason, some of us chose to go to various dangerous places, the endless abyss and the battlefield of epics. Some chose to go against the flow of space-time, and some prepared to merge with the Tao. I naturally chose the last one. I cultivated the Xingyi Great Tao, the 12 top-notch races, the 12 powerful beasts and sacred beasts, had their eyes on the origin of the Great Tao in the shape of an elephant. Originally, I wanted to merge with the Great Tao in the shape of an elephant. At this point, the Xingyi Great Emperor's eyes lit up, and his entire body became excited. As long as I fused with and refined the origin of the Great Tao in the shape of an elephant, I would be able to break through the limits. I might not be able to transcend the limits of this void and break through to the 5th level of the Arch Realm, but I would be able to improve like the other ancestors. Unfortunately, although this Great Tao isn't as powerful as the space-time, reincarnation, karma, and fate, it's not ordinary. I try my best to achieve this. Unfortunately, I didn't know if my cultivation was insufficient or if the origin of the heavens was too strong, or if there were other reasons. But I failed to merge with the Tao and almost became a Tao incarnation. At this point, even though many years had passed, the Xingyi Great Emperor still felt a lingering fear. It was obvious that this time, it had left an indelible mark on him, and it had almost become a shadow in his heart. Fortunately, I had the experience of the previous ancestors, and I also had some opportunities, so I was well prepared. In addition, I had the help of a senior who had successfully merged with the Tao. Although I failed to merge with the Tao, I didn't suffer too much damage. Upon hearing this, Fang Qingshan's pupils suddenly contracted. A senior who had successfully merged with the Tao? Someone had successfully merged with the Tao? In that case, although the Arch Realm experts in the boundless void hadn't transcended after so many years, it wasn't that they hadn't made any progress. At the very least, they had taken another step above the peak Arch Realm. Just like Hong Jun, who had undergone desolation, although he hadn't broken through to the immortal realm, he had obviously reached the half-step immortal realm. However, on second thought, Fang Qingshan did not feel that it was anything surprising. After all, the Arch Realm had been formed for countless years, and it was unknown how many amazing existences had been born. If he had opportunities, why didn't others have them? It wasn't like there weren't any opportunities that were better than his. Perhaps, in a place that Fang Qingshan didn't know, someone had already transcended. Just like how he didn't know that someone had successfully merged with the Tao before. The Xingyi Great Emperor obviously didn't care about what Fang Qingshan was thinking, and he continued to speak. Originally, if I had just given up, it would have been fine. I was still the peak Xingyi Great Emperor, but I wasn't willing to give up. If others could succeed, why couldn't I? Could it be that I'm inferior to anyone? I'm not inferior to anyone. So, I decided to try again. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.